There are people who were never meant to become heroes, yet fate forces them to be. And Wang Lin is one of them. Born into an ordinary family, he carried a simple wish in his heart to cultivate immortality and repay his parents' kindness. But the world is never that kind. No talent, no background, no guidance, everything seemed to whisper to him, the path of cultivation is not for you. Yet in the midst of that hopelessness, Wang Lin chose something that very few have the courage to do. He kept going. He walked forward with stubbornness. He walked forward with longing. He walked forward with everything left in his resilient heart. A strange opportunity came to him, opening a path of cultivation drenched in blood and loneliness. There, every improvement required a sacrifice. Every step forward meant losing something precious. To grow stronger, he had to endure 100 times more than ordinary people. Renegade Immortal is the tale of a man who never submits. A man willing to defy the heavens, defy fate, and defy the world just to protect what his heart refuses to let go. This is not merely an immortal cultivation story. This is the journey of a soul so powerful that even eternity must bow. And today, I invite you to step into that journey, the journey of Wang Lin, the man who walks against the will of heaven to find the answer meant for himself. The next day, a young man, radiating an eerie aura, stared intently at the swaying vegetation at his feet, his eyes gleaming with coldness. This was the cultivator who had traveled from the Fire Flame Kingdom. Anyone who knew that he had managed to reach the Demon Cultivation Sea in just a few months would be utterly terrified. The distance from the Fire Flame Kingdom was immense. Even the 8 Extremes Demon Lord Duan Muji, a cultivator at the God Transformation stage, chose to use an ancient teleportation array rather than fly. If he had flown, it would have taken him 100 years to arrive. This demonstrates the astonishing and unimaginable speed of this young man. In fact, the reason this person was able to arrive here in such a short time had nothing to do with his nascent soul cultivation level, but mainly due to the strange divine ability of his family, the heavenly ghost body searching technique. This divine ability, through the combined power of countless clones overlapping each other, instantly brings them under the main body, thereby increasing the main body's speed countless times. That's why this person only needed 2 months to reach this place. His eyes were gloomy as he stared at the vegetation at his feet, his body slowly descending. These large trees looked like dead objects. After he landed, they remained motionless. He looked at the shattered teleportation array before him. This array had been extremely severely damaged, almost completely broken, and was fundamentally beyond repair. The young man sighed inwardly, muttering to himself, "On this cultivation planet, there are probably not many who can open my storage bag. However, my current cultivation state is unstable. If I return to my home planet immediately, I'm afraid my cultivation will only decrease further." He frowned, and without a sound, his body disappeared. Kongming Continent, one of the 6 continents of the Vermilion Bird Star. Kongming Continent has many cultivation nations. Although there are plenty of first, second, and third-tier cities, there are few fourth-tier cultivation nations. After all, the resources on this continent are too scarce. In the sea bordering Kongming Continent lies a small city. This city is not large, and the highest cultivation level among the cultivators inside only reaches the core formation stage. However, within the city is an ancient teleportation array. At this moment, the teleportation array suddenly lit up. Immediately afterward, Wang Lin's figure emerged from the array. Upon appearing, he instantly swept his divine consciousness across the city, observing the entire environment in a flash. Under his divine consciousness, all the cultivators in the city were terrified. But this feeling came and went quickly. Wang Lin withdrew his divine consciousness, his body flicked, and then disappeared. He flew away using the map in the jade slip. When he was thousands of miles away from the city, he potted his storage bag. The enormous body of the one beast appeared before him. Wang Lin's body flew up and landed on the beast's back. After transmitting a divine thought, the one beast let out a cry and lifted him up. He traveled at an extremely fast speed, and soon Wang Lin, through his divine consciousness, discovered a location with many cultivators. Obviously, it was a sect. Wang Lin did not stop, but quickly flew away. After 10 days, traversing several second and third-tier cultivation nations, he finally reached his goal, the second teleportation array. Through this array, he could quickly shorten the distance to Zhao Kingdom. When he was still several thousand miles away from the teleportation array, Wang Lin's eyebrows furrowed. According to the map inside the jade slip, the location of this array was clearly on a desolate mountain. But under Wang Lin's divine sense, he unexpectedly discovered a large hall and pavilions. Waves of spiritual energy emanated from within. Obviously, this place had become a blessed land for cultivation. His divine sense swept over the outer hall of this sect, and he saw several young men. Their faces showed determination. Standing in front of them were several disciples in the Cha condensation stage. This scene clearly indicated they were recruiting disciples. At the same time, in the middle of the mountain path, a young man was struggling to climb. The scene before him looked incredibly familiar, filling Wang Lin with a sense of nostalgia. He wondered what had become of the Hengyu sect from back then. Although he didn't have particularly deep feelings for the Hengyu sect, it was still the place where he began his cultivation journey. With mixed feelings, Wang Lin rode his spirit beast, slowly flying towards the sect. When he was about 100 miles away, a screen of light suddenly appeared. Waves of gentle light blocked Wang Lin's path. Before Wang Lin could act, the spirit beast beneath him roared, exhaled a breath, striking the screen of light, and then inhaled. Immediately, the screen vibrated violently, finally emitting a rustling sound before vanishing. This caused the several Foundation establishment cultivators who were in seclusion to change color. They rushed out of their seclusion, staring blankly at Wang Lin and the beast he was riding. They hastily ordered their disciples to stop recruiting new disciples and quickly gathered outside the main hall, respectfully waiting for Wang Lin. The moment Wang Lin arrived, 3 Foundation establishment cultivators flew up, respectfully saying, "Greetings, Senior." A hint of fear flickered in their hearts. In their eyes, Wang Lin didn't radiate any spiritual power, yet his entire being exuded an inexplicable aura of power, causing them to tremble. Especially the ferocious beast beneath him, which instilled a deep sense of dread, fearing that offending him would bring immense trouble. These 3 Foundation establishment cultivators were 2 men and 1 woman. Except for the man whose hair was already graying, the other 2 didn't look very old, and the woman was particularly beautiful with a graceful figure. Cultivators cannot judge age by appearance. Although Wang Lin currently looks like a young man, he is actually a 400-year-old monster. Wang Lin calmly glanced at the 3 people and slowly said, "Which sect is this?" The old man among the 3 hurriedly and respectfully said, "Senior, our sect is called Ziyan. If you have any orders, our sect will do its utmost to fulfill them." Wang Lin looked at him and calmly said, "Many years ago, there was an ancient teleportation array here. Is it still there now?" The old man was stunned, pondered for a moment, then shook his head and said, "Senior, there is no ancient teleportation array here." As soon as he finished speaking, a chill ran down his spine. Wang Lin's aura instantly changed, his eyes cold, and he slowly said, "Are you sure?" Cold sweat streamed down the old man's forehead. He pondered for a long time, and just as he was about to speak, the graceful female cultivator beside him stepped forward and respectfully said, "Senior, was that ancient teleportation array originally located on this mountaintop?" Wang Lin's gaze swept over the woman, noticing that although she wasn't stunningly beautiful, her fair skin and rosy lips made her quite attractive. Meeting Wang Lin's gaze, the woman's face flushed, and she softly said, "Senior, if that ancient teleportation array was originally on the mountaintop, then I would know. Lead the way." Wang Lin's body immediately flew towards the mountaintop. The woman hurriedly followed. The 2 remaining Foundation establishment cultivators hesitated for a moment before also following. Under the woman's guidance, they quickly arrived at the mountaintop. The mountain breeze blew, carrying the clear, pleasant sounds of the chimes. After stopping, the nun's face flushed slightly as she said, "Senior, this is my private chamber. This mountain area used to belong entirely to our Purple Cloud sect, which is why Senior Brother didn't know about the existence of the ancient teleportation array. I accidentally discovered a secret passage in the room, and after investigating, I found out that there's a formation beneath this building." Wang Lin nodded. He had already used his divine sense to examine the area earlier and hadn't detected anything. Now, at close range, he used his divine sense again and immediately detected a faint fluctuation of spiritual power beneath the building. Obviously, someone had used a divine ability to conceal it. Wang Lin was slightly surprised. He knew that according to the Jade Slip, this country was merely a second-tier cultivation nation. He hadn't expected this place to almost deceive his divine sense. Guided by the nun, Wang Lin entered the building, and a fragrant aroma immediately filled his nostrils. The interior was quite elegant, resembling a lady's boudoir everywhere. Wang Lin's gaze swept around, briefly lingering on a screen before quickly moving away, his expression calm. The nun's face flushed, and she hurried forward a few steps. Taking advantage of the moment the two senior brothers entered the room, she quickly put away her transparent silk undergarments, bowing her head, her face blushing, not daring to look at Wang Lin. Wang Lin pretended not to know anything, following the nun's lead into the secret passage. He walked along this path with a calm expression, but in reality, he was extremely cautious. If anything unusual happened, he would not hesitate to act. Underground beneath the building, Wang Lin found an ancient teleportation array. This array was quite well preserved and usable. He took out a spirit beast inner cores from his storage bag, and after tossing them to the female cultivator, said, "Use these to refine pills. After using them, it will benefit your cultivation." The woman looked at the inner cores, her heart pounding, her face beaming with joy. She had never encountered inner cores with such powerful spiritual energy in her life. If she used this treasure to refine pills, her cultivation would definitely leap to the late stage of the core formation realm. She carefully accepted them and then carefully placed them in her storage bag. The two core formation cultivators beside her couldn't help but show envy in their eyes. Wang Lin glanced at the two of them, then turned and entered the formation. He waved his right hand, and immediately a cloud of black mist appeared, obscuring the opponent's vision. Then he took out a top-grade spirit stone, placed it in a crack in the formation, and activated it. Columns of light flashed, and Wang Lin disappeared into the formation. The female cultivator looked at the empty formation, a hint of melancholy in her eyes. At the same time, as if thinking of something, her pretty face flushed red. Zhao Kingdom is located at the very edge of the Confucius-Mencius continent. This country is not large, even smaller than the Fire Flame Kingdom, only about half its size. While it has spiritual veins, they are scarce, barely enough to sustain domestic needs. Even then, supply doesn't meet demand. Even if it can be exploited, its use is limited. Because of these sparse spiritual veins, Zhao Kingdom has relatively few spiritual herbs, almost none at all. It's just an extremely small border kingdom, a place where even dogs eat rocks and chickens eat pebbles. Currently, the #1 sect in Zhao Kingdom is the Zhuandao sect. Within this sect is its founder, Park Namsu, who last year reached the late nascent soul stage. After 400 years of secluded cultivation, his cultivation has steadily increased. Although he hasn't reached the transformation god stage, he doesn't even consider ordinary late nascent soul cultivators a threat. Besides the Zhuandao sect, there is also the righteous sect of Zhao Kingdom, the Misty sect. However, this sect's later generations were not as powerful as their predecessors, gradually declining. It's also worth mentioning the Yuan Kui sect and the Shimi sect. Although they did develop, due to the existence of Park Namya, they ultimately remained second-tier sects. As for the demonic sects, the Heavenly Dao sect, the Hehuan sect, and the Wufeng Valley, even if they wanted to rise up, they couldn't resist Park Namya. However, compared to the Piamiya sect, they were still a notch higher. Under Park Namju's powerful methods, conflicts between the righteous and demonic paths were extremely rare. Even if there were minor skirmishes, they were only small-scale, with no large-scale battles occurring. It can be said that the current Zhao Kingdom is basically under Park Namju's control, with everything focused on developing into a fourth-tier cultivation nation. Once Park Namya reaches the transformation god stage, everything will naturally fall into place. Furthermore, in the last 400 years, many remarkable figures have emerged in the Zhao Kingdom. For example, the genius Wang Zhou of the Zhuangtia sect. He reached the early stage of the Golden Core realm in nearly 200 years, and then in just another 200 years, reached the late stage. Such speed is rare in Zhao Kingdom. Besides, every sect has its own outstanding individuals, but these are nothing compared to the Tang family. In the past 4 years in Zhao Kingdom, besides Park Namsi, the leader of the Tang family is undoubtedly the Tang family. Tang family's ancestor, Tang Yuan, was already in the early stage of the nascent soul realm 400 years ago. After 400 years of cultivation, with the help of Park Namzi, he reached the late stage of the nascent soul realm, becoming one of the top masters in Zhao Kingdom. In Zhao Kingdom, simply reaching the late stage of the nascent soul realm grants extremely high status and power. Of course, the first condition is that you must obey Park Namzi's orders. Park Namzi's order was for everyone to do their utmost, sparing no resources, to produce a nascent soul cultivator among the late-stage nascent soul cultivators, thereby elevating the Zhao Kingdom's status. Tang Hui Yuan's cultivation level increased, immediately boosting the Tang family's standing in the Zhao Kingdom. The Tang family flourished, with numerous descendants, becoming the leading cultivation family in the Zhao Kingdom. Their disciples were present in almost every sect, and some even held extremely high positions. At the same time, Tang Hui Yuan paid close attention to marriage alliances. Tang family women often formed dual cultivation partnerships with talented cultivators, using this to solidify the Tang family's position. Wang Zhuo was one of the Tang family's prospective sons-in-law. It could be said that the Tang family had close ties to the entire Zhao Kingdom, even saying that interfering with the Tang family was like pulling a thread that would stir up trouble wouldn't be an exaggeration. For the past 400 years, there have been those who harbored ill intentions towards the Tang family, but ultimately, even without Tang Hui Yuan's intervention, those who intended to harm them quietly vanished from Zhao Kingdom. Park Namjae didn't care about Tang Hui Yuan's actions. He was solely focused on cultivating to reach the god transformation stage, disregarding everything else in the world. The Tang family's city, once a mere 400 feet in size, had expanded fourfold over the past 400 years. It had now become a colossal fortress, a testament to the Tang family's power in Zhao Kingdom. Beneath the city walls, 100 feet deep, lay a secret chamber, its spiritual energy incredibly abundant, far exceeding that of the outside world. The main reason for this was the presence of a spiritual vein beneath this chamber. Though not large, it was more than sufficient for cultivation. The Tang family's patriarch, having discovered this spiritual vein, had secretly dug this chamber during the city's expansion to cultivate there. Even Park Namjae was unaware of this. Only a few members of the Tang family knew this secret. Usually, only those in the family wishing to achieve a breakthrough were allowed to enter this place for a few days of cultivation. One day, in the secret chamber beneath the Tang family's city, an old man with white hair suddenly opened his eyes, revealing a sinister glint. He frowned. Just now, while he was in seclusion, he suddenly felt a sensation like a blood-red light striking him. This feeling was extremely intense, almost causing the spiritual power in his body to become chaotic. The old man remained silent for a moment, then formed a hand seal with his right hand, immediately releasing a spiritual incantation, transforming it into a screen of white light before him. He quickly chanted a series of complex incantations. The white light before him gradually became dazzling. The old man chanted the incantation faster and faster, a look of solemnity appearing in his eyes. But at this moment, the white light suddenly trembled, then, beyond control, dispersed and vanished. The old man's face immediately turned gloomy. He muttered, "Strange. The spiritual divination technique taught by Park Namjae couldn't detect the source of that blood-red light." He was silent for a moment, his eyes revealing a cold glint, thinking to himself, "With my current cultivation level, even if someone brought blood-red light to Zhao Kingdom, I could easily neutralize it. This person is the one Wang Lin wants to kill, the ancestor of the Tang family, Tang Hui Yuan, the high and mighty one." The passage of time had aged him somewhat. His cultivation had improved, and now he looked completely different from the person who had forced Wang Lin to self-destruct. His entire aura surged, making him seem like a reckless young man transformed into a cunning and experienced old man. It was a complete contrast. He took a deep breath, his body flashed, and he disappeared from the secret chamber. When he appeared, he was inside the ancestral temple of the Tang family. This building was a 3-story structure, its exterior adorned with dragon and phoenix carvings, looking incredibly majestic and radiating a powerful aura. Tang Hui Yuan appeared on the 3rd floor. Many ancestral tablets were placed there, each bearing the name of a descendant of the Tang family who had passed away over the countless years. Tang Hui Yuan's gaze swept across these tablets, finally settling on one clearly inscribed with Tang Li. For over 400 years, whenever he felt uneasy or sad, he would come here to look at this tablet. It seemed to have become a habit. After a long while, Tang Hui Yuan flicked his right hand, and the tablet fell into his hand. He gently wiped the tablet, muttering, "Liar, you left too soon." If it weren't for that, with your talent, you would surely have reached the nascent soul stage by now. He sighed softly, returned the ancestral tablet to its original position, then turned and left. At that very moment, two streaks of swordlight, like rainbows, shot towards Tang Family City. After reaching more than 100 miles from the city gate, the swordlight descended, revealing to people a man and a woman. The man was middle-aged, appearing mature but extremely handsome. Clearly, he had been a dashing figure in his youth. He wore a white robe, immediately giving off a striking impression. The woman beside him, though not breathtakingly beautiful, possessed a noble and elegant aura, also dressed in white. However, both were frowning, clearly preoccupied with something. The middle-aged man looked up at Tang Family City, a complex expression in his eyes. Wang Zhuo, so much time has passed, and you still haven't let it go. The woman sighed softly, speaking in a low voice, forgive. The revenge for the murder of my parents and the extermination of my entire clan, if it could be easily forgiven, then I, Wang Zhuo, wouldn't be worthy of being called a human? The middle-aged man chuckled softly, speaking calmly. The woman was silent for a moment, then whispered, I only want to visit my younger sister. We'll leave in 3 days. During these 3 days, Wang Zhuo, don't be impulsive, okay? Don't worry, I won't act until I have enough strength to kill that old villain, the middle-aged man said calmly, then stepped into the city. The woman sighed inwardly, hurried after him, and together they reached the gates of the Tang Family City. Wang Zhuo, actually, you shouldn't hate the ancestor for what happened back then, but rather Wang Lin. Although he's dead, he's the one who caused all this. The woman said softly as they walked. The middle-aged man suddenly stopped, turned around, and stared at the woman, his voice strained. Tang Xiuxiu, I warn you, don't mention Wang Lin's name in front of me. I'll let you off this time. If you repeat this offense, don't blame me for being ruthless. The woman remained silent, saying nothing more, and entered Tang Family City with Wang Zhuo. At this moment, in an unnamed mountain valley on the border of Zhao Kingdom, a series of dazzling lights suddenly appeared. Very quickly, the light dimmed and finally disappeared completely. From the valley emerged a young man with silver hair. This man had a purple star on his forehead. He looked at the ground in front of him in astonishment, then slowly knelt down and forcefully bowed several times. When he looked up, a terrifying killing intent, unlike anything seen in 400 years, flashed in his eyes as he whispered, Father, Mother, Taiju has returned. Now I want to make Zhao Kingdom bleed profusely. If I break this oath, may heaven and earth destroy me. A flash of lightning suddenly appeared in the sky, followed by a series of thunderous roars. Then, with a sudden rush, torrential rain poured down, splashing onto the ground like mist. At the Zhuandao sect on the Yue mountain range, the rain and dust covered everything. Thunder and lightning raged, and at the foot of the mountain, the branches and leaves in the dense forest rustled incessantly under the falling rain. Here, in the midst of the stormy night, a young man with silver hair slowly emerged from the forest. His feet crunched on the waterlogged ground and fallen leaves. From afar, he gazed calmly at the main hall of the Zhuandao sect on the summit of Hengyu Mountain. After a long while, he turned and left. This time, he headed towards a small mountain village several hundred miles away. In the dead of night, the mountain village was filled only with the sound of thunder and the pouring rain. Occasionally, the villagers' dogs would bark, their whimpers echoing as if defying the heavens. But this only amplified the thunder's roar. The entire village was shrouded in darkness. A white-haired youth walked slowly along the path, observing the familiar yet strange surroundings. His gaze gradually softened, revealing a profound melancholy. This melancholy could be as cold as ice, for it contained an unforgotten affection. 400 years had passed in the blink of an eye. Perhaps not long for a cultivator, but for a mortal, it represented countless vicissitudes and the shifting tides of history. This mountain village, with its many houses, had undergone numerous renovations over generations, its appearance now drastically altered. This young man in white was Wang Lin. He surveyed the village, his gaze settling on one particular spot. Wang Lin remembered that there used to be an old pagoda tree here, where he used to sit and read and play with his friends when he was a child. In an instant, everything vanished into thin air. Wang Lin sighed softly and slowly walked forward. Before long, he stopped in astonishment, looking at a familiar house, his body involuntarily trembling. From the village gate to here, almost all the houses were no longer the same as before. But only this place, since he left, the scenery remained unchanged. Wang Lin bit his lip, pushed open the door, and with a creak, the wooden door slowly opened. He stepped inside and slowly closed the door. In the courtyard, under a rain cover, there was a wooden table, surrounded by several wooden chairs. Wang Lin silently observed everything, tears suddenly streaming down his face. After a long time, Wang Lin went into the next room, pushed open the door, and everything here was exactly as in his memory, without a single change. At this moment, Wang Lin felt as if 400 years ago was just a dream. Now that he had awakened, his parents' souls were no longer in the heaven-defying chamber. They were not dead, but sleeping in this room amidst the stormy night. However, with his current level of consciousness, he knew without even needing to spread his awareness that there was no one else in the room. In the ancestral hall, Wang Lin saw two memorial tablets, one above and one below. The upper tablet was inscribed, Wang Tia Shui, the spirit of Chu Yingsu. The lower tablet was inscribed, the spirit of the eldest son, Wang Lin. Below the two tablets was an incense burner, with a few unlit incense sticks on either side. A look of profound sorrow suddenly appeared in Wang Lin's eyes. He lit 3 incense sticks and placed them in the burner, slowly knelt down, bowed a few times, and muttered a prayer. Your unfilial son, Wang Lin, today I offer incense and pay my respects. Next time, I will take the heads of the entire Tang family and erect a tower of human heads for my parents. A wave of killing intent emanated from Wang Lin, intensifying the cold in the main hall, far exceeding the chill of the night rain outside. After standing up, he remained silent for a moment, about to turn and leave, when suddenly his expression changed slightly, and in a flash, his body vanished. A moment later, a carriage was seen approaching the small mountain village from afar. In front of the carriage stood an old man in a straw cloak, his temples prominent, his eyes flashing with sharp light, clearly a skilled martial artist. He swung his whip, and with a bang, he lashed the horse in front. The horse neighed and immediately galloped faster. The uneven ground caused the carriage to jolt incessantly, but the old man sat motionless, as if glued to the carriage, not moving at all. Only occasionally did he softly shout, "Go!" The carriage arrived quickly. The old man softly shouted, immediately pulling on the reins. The horse neighed loudly, its front hoofs lifted, swaying for a moment before finally stopping in front of the Wang family's house. The old man gently jumped down from the carriage, respectfully opening the carriage door. A young girl jumped out, wearing a turquoise dress, her hair tied up in a ponytail. She looked quite pretty. After she jumped down, her body immediately trembled, clearly affected by the cold of the rainy night, but she didn't seem to mind. She immediately took out an umbrella, opened it, and said loudly, "Miss, we've arrived." From the carriage emerged a graceful figure, slowly stepping down and standing under the umbrella. This girl had a pale face, possessing a beauty tinged with illness. As soon as she stepped down, her body trembled. The maid, holding an umbrella in one hand and a purple coat in the other, quickly draped it over the young lady with the help of the old man from the carriage. At the same time, the young maid spoke with dissatisfaction. "Miss, it's raining so heavily today. Why bother coming here? Couldn't you come tomorrow? You're so frail. What if you catch a cold?" Even the old carriage driver's eyes showed a mixture of affection and reproach. The young lady chuckled softly, stepping forward and lowering her voice. "You don't understand. Before my grandfather passed away, he said that every year on this day, no matter what happens to our Wang family, the direct descendants must personally come here to pay their respects. It's a tradition." The maid, still dissatisfied, smiled and said, "Miss, this place is so far from the capital. Why do you come here every year? Is there some kind of legend inside? I heard some of my sisters say that this place used to be a branch of the royal family." The young lady chuckled softly, stopping the old man from pushing the door open. She opened the door herself, saying, "This is your first time accompanying me here, so it's natural that you don't know. I'll explain it to you in detail later." After entering the courtyard, the 3 of them went straight into the inner house without stopping. The young maid in the room folded up her umbrella, shook off the rainwater, and held it in her hand, curiously observing everything. As for the old man, he stood at the entrance, eyes closed, and said nothing. The young lady took a deep breath and walked towards the main hall. The young maid caught up, but was stopped. The young lady said softly, "You and Uncle Lee wait outside, I'll go inside." The young maid's small mouth immediately pursed, but she obediently nodded. The young lady smiled casually, cleared her throat a few times, and slowly walked into the main hall. Entering the main hall, she saw a pedestal with 2 ancestral tablets on it and a cushion for kneeling beside it. She knelt down and bowed a few times, about to light incense when her hand trembled. She stared at the incense burner, where 3 sticks of incense were almost completely burned. She was about to cry out in alarm when a wave of icy cold air instantly filled the entire hall. Cold sweat broke out on her forehead. She dared not move, feeling that even the slightest movement would cost her her life. A young man with silver hair slowly emerged from a dark corner of the hall. "Whose descendant are you?" Wang Lin glanced at her and said calmly. The woman's face showed fear. She trembled uncontrollably from the penetrating cold, her voice shaking as she spoke. "Who are you? Why are you in my Wang family's house?" Wang Lin looked at her. His right hand waved, and immediately the surrounding icy cold air dissipated, becoming slightly warmer. The woman felt her body gradually warm up, no longer trembling, but her eyes still showed fear and astonishment as she looked at Wang Lin, her right hand subtly reaching her waist. At that moment, a powerful palm strike came from outside, and at the same time, the old carriage driver jumped into the main hall. However, as soon as his body entered, he immediately trembled, his whole body uncontrollably falling to the ground unconscious. The woman's face changed color. Wang Lin glanced at the old man lying on the ground and calmly said, "I ask you again, whose descendant are you?" Indeed, after he entered the house, he had a slight suspicion in his heart. Over the years, if this house hadn't been cared for, it certainly couldn't have been preserved until now. Moreover, he observed that the scenery was no longer the same as before, obviously having undergone a renovation. "My father is Wang Yunfei. If you've been following me here, why ask?" The woman's eyes showed determination as she gritted her teeth. "What is your relationship with the ancestral tablet in this house?" Wang Lin asked, raising his eyebrows. "He's the elder brother of my family's ancestor." The woman felt suspicious, thinking to herself, if the person in front of her was an assassin sent by her father's enemies, why would he ask such strange questions? Wang Lin's heart stirred slightly. He looked at the woman, his tone no longer calm, but slightly nervous. He softly asked, "What was your ancestor's name?" "My ancestor's name was Wang Tian." She hesitated for a moment, then softly said, always feeling that this person was very strange. Upon hearing this name, Wang Lin's whole body trembled, and he muttered, "Fourth uncle." If one were to speak of the Wang family, besides his parents, the person Wang Lin loved most was his fourth uncle. Hearing news of his fourth uncle, Wang Lin's emotions stirred. Images of his uncle from the past flashed through his mind. After a long while, Wang Lin sighed, looking at the woman with an indescribable affection, as if she were his own junior. He gently asked, "How old was your ancestor?" The woman's eyes showed even more surprise, and she softly said, "My ancestor passed away at 98. In his middle age, he caught the eye of a powerful immortal master. After descending from the mountain and establishing himself in the capital, he served the imperial family. Our Wang family has since flourished in the capital until now." Wang Lin's eyes lit up with joy. After a moment of silence, he gently said, "Fourth, your ancestor's son, Wang Hu, must also have passed away." The woman's eyes trembled, and she exclaimed in surprise, You know that our ancestor's son, Wang Hu, passed away 3 years before our ancestor Death passed away too." Years had passed, the scenery remained, but the people were gone. Wang Lin, having heard news of his fourth uncle, felt an overwhelming surge of emotion. After a long while, he glanced at the woman and slowly said, "You have yin energy in your body. Is that because your mother was injured while pregnant with you?" The woman stared blankly at Wang Lin, her heart racing. She knew that if she investigated further, she might find some clues. However, the reason for possessing yin energy was unknown to most people. They only knew that she had been weak and sickly since childhood. Looking at Wang Lin, she said in a trembling voice, Who exactly are you?" She had always thought this person was an assassin sent by her father's enemies, but if he was an assassin, how could he know so much? Wang Lin flicked his right hand, and immediately a stream of pure energy appeared on the woman's forehead. This stream of energy grew thicker and thicker, finally rising gently from the heavenly spirit acupoint. Wang Lin clenched his fist, and the stream of pure energy instantly dissipated. The woman felt her body suddenly heat up. The illness that had tormented her for 20 years had vanished with just a wave of his hand. This immediately reminded her of a legendary being. You are an immortal. The woman bit her lower lip. An immortal perhaps, Wang Lin chuckled softly. Seeing that his fourth uncle had a prosperous family and seemed to be quite well off in the capital, Wang Lin stood deep in thought, a feeling of joy rising within him. After a moment of contemplation, Wang Lin glanced at her and slowly said, "Speaking of which, I am your ancestor. Back then, I made an agreement with my fourth uncle. If I succeeded in cultivating immortality, I would protect his descendants to repay him for giving me the opportunity to cultivate." He potted his storage bag, taking out several bottles of elixirs, and said, "These are 72 elixirs. Each descendant can only eat one in this lifetime. Don't be greedy. As for you, you can eat 3. After handing the bottles to her, Wang Lin pondered for a moment. He then pointed a drop of blood at her forehead, potted his storage bag, and took out a jade slip. With a slight movement of his divine consciousness, a trace of the extreme realm imprint appeared within. Wang Lin's eyes were icy cold as he solemnly said, "I have left a trace of my divine consciousness within this jade slip." No cultivator in the entire Zhao Kingdom can survive its attack for more than 3/4 of an hour. But this jade slip can only be used 3 times before you die. You must pass this down to your descendants. This jade slip cannot be opened without the blood of our Wang family. You must use it well and make arrangements for yourself. After throwing the jade slip to her, Wang Lin waved his sleeve, and his body disappeared from the spot. The woman stared blankly at the elixir and jade slip in her hand, feeling as if she were dreaming in broad daylight. At this moment, the old man who had fallen to the ground slowly opened his eyes, looking around dazedly. Immediately, his eyes lit up, and he stood up solemnly saying, "Miss, what happened just now?" At this moment, the little maid carrying an umbrella also came in from outside. Seeing that the young lady was unharmed, she breathed a sigh of relief, her face flushed, and said, "Miss, Kyra was very tired just now and unconsciously fell asleep hearing this." The old man's face immediately turned very ugly. He had felt the young lady calling for help, but as soon as he entered this hall, he involuntarily fell unconscious. "Nothing's wrong. You shouldn't think nonsense. Let's go. We'll return to the capital." She took a deep breath, stood up, her face no longer showing signs of illness, but instead a healthy, rosy glow. The old man was the first to notice the abnormality. He looked at her in horror, exclaiming, "Miss, you." At this moment, the young maid also realized the abnormality, her eyes showing disbelief. The young lady smiled calmly, saying nothing, turning to carefully examine the 2 ancestral tablets in the main hall, glancing briefly at Wang Lin's tablet before turning and leaving. She was also a shrewd and intelligent person. She had some suspicions in her heart, but that was all. She needed to return to the capital to examine the family tree to confirm it. She believed her father would take the time to thoroughly investigate the family tree with her. Leaving the mountain village, Wang Lin's expression, which had been gentle, turned ferocious. His entire being exuded intense killing intent. He was in midair, flying like an arrow, his mind made up. The saying goes, when the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. If he directly killed Tang Hui Yuan, it would cause his descendants to be scattered. And Wang Lin's plan to exterminate the entire clan would be impossible. Most importantly, simply killing Tang Hui Yuan wouldn't be enough to satisfy his hatred. He wanted Tang Hui Yuan to watch his descendants all perish, enduring all the pain in the world before finally taking revenge. His divine consciousness swept across the entire Zhao Kingdom, easily locating Tang Hui Yuan's residence in Tang Family City. A terrifying killing intent flashed in Wang Lin's eyes, and his body instantly shot forward like lightning. 1,000 miles away from Tang Family City, Wang Lin stopped, patted his storage bag, took out a formation flag, and planted it in the ground. Then, with a wave of his right hand, the formation flag instantly disappeared. Wang Lin moved again, circling Tang Family City for 1,000 miles, planting 16 formation flags in quick succession. He coldly gazed towards Tang Family City, a cruel, bloodthirsty smile appearing at the corner of his mouth as he softly said, "From today onwards, Tang Family City can only be entered, not left." Teng Ichue Yuan, my revenge is only just beginning. His eyes were cold, his hands formed a hand seal, and his entire body instantly soared into the air. In midair, he let out a low shout, his hands quickly touching his body several times. Following this, a stream of pure energy surged from within, instantly enveloping him. Immediately afterward, behind him, the illusory image of an ancient demon god slowly materialized. Wang Lin knelt on one knee, biting off a fingertip and quickly spitting out a drop of fresh blood, shouting, "Tang Li's soul, appear." Immediately, the demon god opened its eyes, swallowed the drop of blood Wang Lin had spat out, savored it a few times, and then spat out a thin beam of pure light. The beam of light slowly descended, and Wang Lin caught it with his hand. At the same time, the illusory image of the demon god gradually disappeared. This was a divine ability Wang Lin had learned from the memories of the ancient god Tut. Anyone who had been murdered could use this ability to summon their soul back from the void. But the duration was only half an incense stick's worth. The soul returned without memories, possessing only instincts and a slight reaction. This divine ability seemed useless, usually only used to show off with magical artifacts. But the moment Wang Lin saw this ability, a series of revenge ideas flashed through his mind. Holding Tang Li's soul in his hand, Wang Lin didn't say a word. He took a deep breath, and in an instant, his consciousness spread out, covering the entire Zhao kingdom. Based on the perception of Tang Li's soul, a point of light appeared in Wang Lin's consciousness. Each point of light represented a person of the Tang family bloodline. Whether they were direct descendants or collateral branches, daughters or daughters-in-law who had sons, they all appeared in Wang Lin's consciousness, slowly manifesting themselves. It could be said that anyone possessing even a trace of Tang family bloodline would appear in Wang Lin's consciousness. Exterminating a clan wasn't simply about killing all the Tang family descendants, but about eradicating the entire Tang family bloodline from the world. Only then would it truly be considered annihilation. Gradually, more and more points of light appeared, and Wang Lin's smile grew increasingly cruel. Over the years, the Tang family's descendants had naturally reached a considerable number. In Wang Lin's consciousness, the soul fluctuations of these people were instantly recorded. In the blink of an eye, half an incense stick's worth of time had passed, and the soul of Tang Li, which Wang Lin had devoured, gradually dissipated. Wang Lin patted his storage bag with his right hand, and a spirit beast immediately appeared. Wang Lin stepped onto it, his divine sense focusing on the nearest sect, and flew away. In his divine consciousness, he sensed the soul fluctuations of those belonging to the Tang family bloodline. There were 7 people there, including Tang Zhuan, one of the 6th-generation descendants of the Tang family. He had obviously reached the early stage of the core formation realm. All of this, besides his surname, was due to another reason. He was a disciple of the Heavenly Dao sect's nascent soul stage ancestor. The Tang family had a total of 6 members in the Heavenly Dao sect, all of whom currently held high positions. Of course, the one with the highest status was Tang Zhuan. After all, the other 5 had only reached the foundation establishment realm. Tang Zhuan was very satisfied with everything he had, whether it was his cultivation or his status. Although in the eyes of the important figures of the Tang family, these things were nothing, Tang Zhuan knew. Given his status, he couldn't compare himself to those people. Although the Tang clan had countless members, few could compare to the favored son of heaven. Tang Zhuan knew himself well. He only wished to reach the late stage of the core formation realm during his lifetime. That would be enough to satisfy him. Today, he met his younger sister, Tang Yu, here. Thinking of his sister, Tang Zhuan's heart burned with anger again. There was something extremely secret between him and his sister. The two had a secret relationship since childhood, a relationship that had lasted until now. Although Tang Zhuan knew that his younger sister was naturally promiscuous, and that many in the clan would have the opportunity to enjoy her company as she grew up. Even some uncles and cousins might have had some ambiguous relationship with her, he didn't care. Just thinking about reuniting with his younger sister and experiencing all the secret techniques in bed, he couldn't help but let his thoughts wander. His heart burning with desire, he hurriedly went to the building behind the mountain, pushed open the door, and immediately a soft, fragrant body fell into his arms. Wang Lin flew like an arrow, and in the distance he saw the sect located on a mountaintop, with the 3 characters Heavenly Dao Sect written above the entrance. Wang Lin almost didn't stop, continuing his ascent. Suddenly, a bright light flashed on the mountaintop, and the defensive formation activated. Wang Lin didn't even glance at them. He potted his storage bag, and the Forbidden's banner instantly appeared in his hand. With a wave, more than 10 Forbidden's artifacts flashed, aiming towards the raging light. Immediately, the light shattered, and at the same time, the entire mountain range of the Heavenly Tao sect shook, countless rocks fell, and dust billowed up. Almost instantly, the nascent soul stage ancestor of the Heavenly Tao sect, who was in seclusion, flew out, his face filled with horror as he looked up at the sky. The spirit beast beneath Wang Lin's feet seemed to sense its master's killing intent, let out a cry, and suddenly swooped down. The nascent soul stage cultivators secretly groaned in distress, about to bring out their magic weapons and engage in a life-or-death battle. Wang Lin's divine consciousness swept across, instantly enveloping the entire Heavenly Tao sect like a divine power. My feud with the descendants of the Tang family is a personal one. Anyone who stands in my way will die. Within this sound, Wang Lin had naturally infused a wisp of his divine consciousness. The sound slowly traveled through the air, growing louder as it descended, eventually becoming earth-shattering and resounding everywhere. The nascent soul cultivator spat out fresh blood, his eyes filled with terror. At the same time, Wang Lin's body leapt down from the beast, his divine consciousness sweeping across the area. Immediately fixing his gaze on a disciple of the Heavenly Tao sect in the main hall square. This young man looked extremely frightened. A bloodthirsty smile appeared in Wang Lin's eyes. He waved his right hand, and the man involuntarily flew up from the ground, falling into Wang Lin's hand. The man clutched his neck with both hands, struggling and trying to say something, but unfortunately, he shouldn't have been surnamed Tang. Wang Lin's right hand touched him, and with a few cracking sounds, the young man's eyes widened, and he died instantly. At the same time, Wang Lin's left hand flashed, and a soul banner appeared in his hand. The soul of this person immediately flew out from the heavenly spirit acupoint and fell into the soul banner. Wang Lin threw the man's body backward, and immediately a long dragon tendon flew out of his storage bag, tightly binding the corpse. The other end was held by the large mouth of the beast. Wang Lin performed all of this cleanly and smoothly in front of so many people from the Heavenly Tao sect, without the slightest mercy. After killing one person, his figure flashed, and he leapt into the main hall. He saw a young man with a look of grief and indignation, clenching his fists. He could only clench them like that, never to let go again, because his surname was Tang. Wang Lin's right hand struck the man's heavenly spirit acupoint. This single blow shattered his internal organs, and his soul was sucked into the soul banner. Wang Lin showed no pity in his eyes, and suddenly his body moved slightly. This time, it was none other than the nascent soul progenitor of the Heavenly Tao sect. The red-faced old man's body suddenly flashed, appearing before Wang Lin with a terrified expression, but he still shouted, "Fellow Taoist, please stop. We should talk things over calmly." Wang Lin merely glanced at him. His extreme realm divine consciousness stirred slightly, and his body flashed. The red-faced old man's eyes emitted a gray light, and he was instantly shattered by Wang Lin's divine consciousness. Wang Lin swept past in an instant, lightly patted him, and both his body and nascent soul shattered, blood and flesh scattering on the ground. Those who obstruct the Tang family are guilty of the same crime. A voice as cold as ice in winter emanated from Wang Lin's mouth. Several nascent soul cultivators around him immediately felt terrified. Their steps halted, not daring to take another step. Wang Lin's figure left the main hall, flying away through the pavilions of the Heavenly Tao sect. The nascent soul cultivators hesitated for a moment, then each took out a jade slip and sent their divine consciousness into it. The jade slip flashed, quickly flying towards the distance and disappearing from sight. Next, the nascent soul cultivators looked at each other, gritting their teeth, and followed closely behind Wang Lin. Although they didn't dare to stop him, chasing after him without the courage would be truly disrespectful to the nascent soul ancestor. A woman with an extremely beautiful appearance, her face filled with panic, was flying towards the Heavenly Tao sect's alchemy room. She didn't want to die. However, she couldn't match Wang Lin's speed. Almost as soon as she entered the alchemy room, Wang Lin appeared in an instant. His right hand swung up, and she involuntarily flew backward. She fell into Wang Lin's hands, screaming in terror. Her eyes showed fear. She didn't want to die, but she bore the surname Tang. Wang Lin mercilessly crushed her neck bones. After collecting her soul, Wang Lin threw the corpse behind him and immediately wrapped the dragon tendon around it. At this moment, 3 corpses were bound to the dragon tendon. Wang Lin didn't stop. In his consciousness, there were 4 people remaining. Besides the 2 behind the mountain, 2 were flying rapidly. Unexpectedly, one of them was flying out of the heavenly Tao sect. Wang Lin's eyes were icy cold. His body moved slightly, and he appeared outside the heavenly Tao sect. He saw a young man in black clothes fleeing in terror, occasionally turning his head to look back. However, he no longer had the chance to turn around, because his surname was Tang. Wang Lin lightly pointed his finger at the man's chest, and his body immediately trembled, instantly losing his life. After collecting his soul, Wang Lin flew towards his next target. Behind him, several nascent soul cultivators quickly pursued him, their hearts filled with even greater fear. They all thought to themselves, the Tang family, when did they offend such a ruthless killer? This person's abilities are extraordinary. Killing nascent soul cultivators is effortless, but this person didn't seek trouble with Tang Hua Yuan. Instead, he sought to kill his descendants. Clearly, he harbored a deep-seated hatred for the Tang family and intended to annihilate them completely. The nascent soul cultivators present couldn't help but shudder, their steps slowing. Wang Lin's eyes remained icy cold, a hint of killing intent slowly emanating from his body. He subtly smiled, focusing on the 5th person. This person was the oldest of the others, naturally with snow-white hair, and his abilities weren't particularly high, having only surpassed the late foundation establishment stage. He showed no signs of panic or grief, but rather a solemn expression as he swiftly flew through the air, continuously releasing jade slips, leaving behind his divine consciousness, and then sending them forth. But his fate was already sealed, for he was Tang. Seeing Wang Lin appear before him, the man immediately stopped flying, looked at Wang Lin, and said in a low voice, "Senior, you and my Tang family have a long-standing feud. This matter must have some hidden meaning." Wang Lin said nothing. Without waiting for the man to speak, he swung his right hand, and a black flying sword flew out of his storage bag, instantly piercing the man's chest. The man's entire body turned black, his breath extinguished, and he perished. Having captured the soul and bound the body, Wang Lin's figure flashed, and he flew towards the back of the mountain. Tang Xuan and Tang Yu always activated a formation in the pavilion behind the mountain during their intimate moments, concealing all traces of their presence. Although they couldn't simultaneously know what was happening outside, their safety was at its absolute limit. After all, he and Tang Yu were siblings. If this matter were discovered, he would surely be ruined. Although Tang Yu was friendly with many people, including quite a few members of the Tang family, such matters were kept secret and not spoken about openly. However, if someone caught them in bed, that would be a different story. Therefore, he was completely unaware of everything happening outside. Before him was Tang Yu's beautiful face, which captivated him completely. After a few low growls, Tang Xuan frantically charged at Tang Yu, as if wanting to tear her to pieces. As for Tang Yu, she immediately unleashed the secret technique of the Hewan sect, and the 2 almost simultaneously reached the peak of their passion. It must be said that compared to the other 5, Tang Xuan and Tang Yu were the luckiest. Although neither of them deserved to die, at least they had enjoyed the pleasures of passion before their demise. Tang Xuan took several deep breaths and climbed onto Tang Yu, but he immediately noticed something was wrong. Turning his head, he saw another person in the room. His heart trembled, and he was about to speak when suddenly the other person's eyes flashed. This was the last image he would see in his life. As for Tang Yu, opening her beautiful eyes and looking ahead, she saw Tang Xuan's head had fallen to the ground. She was stunned, then immediately cried out in fear. However, this cry was only a soft moan, and it was the last sound she could utter. They had to die, because the 2 siblings bore the Tang surname. After killing them and taking their souls, Wang Lin stepped outside. Outside the pavilion, the nascent soul ancestors of the Heavenly Tao sect remained silent. Wang Lin glanced at them, then soared into the sky, mounting the Wen beast. The dragon tendons in the Wen beast's mouth bound 7 corpses. Without stopping, Wang Lin rode the Wen beast swiftly away from the Heavenly Tao sect. The 7 corpses bound by the dragon tendons resembled a peacock's tail, emitting a beautiful, pungent blood-red aura in the air. Only when Wang Lin's figure disappeared into the horizon did the nascent soul ancestors breathe a sigh of relief their bodies drenched in sweat. One whispered, "The Tang family is probably finished." Not just the Tang family, the Zhao kingdom is probably in turmoil, to another murmured. Then he took a deep breath, staring blankly at the heavenly Dao sect leader, and said in a low voice, "Issue the order. Summon all disciples outside the sect. Anyone connected to the Tang family must immediately sever all ties. Any disciples inside or outside the sect who marry a daughter of the Tang family must immediately break off all relations and be expelled from the sect. From now on, the Heavenly Dao sect will have no further connection with the Tang family." Even after killing 7 members of the Tang family, Wang Lin's gaze remained icy cold. The act of exterminating an entire clan required unwavering resolve. Even the slightest wavering would prevent decisive action. Moreover, not everyone possessed the resolve to do such an act. Wang Lin's next target was a sect located tens of thousands of miles away. There, the Tang family had a large number of descendants, totaling 93 people. Wang Lin was not in a hurry. He had to kill slowly, making Tang Yuan writhe in agony over the death of his clan members, unable to save them. He wanted Tang Yuan's heart to be numb, wanting to rip out his chest and heart so that he would feel nothing anymore. Wufeng Valley, originally founded 400 years ago by a member of the demonic alliance in Zhao Kingdom, had not only failed to expand and prosper over the past 400 years, but had instead declined. The masters of this sect, across generations, were unable to break through, living out their lifespans, none able to escape the cycle of reincarnation. This caused the strength of the entire great sect to gradually decline. Moreover, the emergence of the powerful Xuan Dao sect eventually split Wufeng Valley in two, making it far weaker than before. The decline of Wufeng Valley fueled the ambition of Tang Yuan, the ancestor of the Tang family. For hundreds of years, he had successively brought his clan members into Wufeng Valley. Although Wufeng Valley also recognized Tang Yuan's ambition, due to the extraordinary abilities of the Tang family's patriarch, they could only gradually accept this phenomenon. It's worth noting that Tang Yuan was originally a guest elder of Wufeng Valley, so other sects didn't say anything. After all, this was a private matter of Wufeng Valley. To date, Wufeng Valley has 93 descendants of the Tang family, the vast majority of whom hold significant positions within the sect. There are even 3 with high status, the most prominent being Tang Gao, one of the 5 great disciples, who was naturally chosen as the next sect leader. Besides Tang Yuan, Wufeng Valley also has 2 nascent soul-stage patriarchs. Regarding this phenomenon, they could only feel helpless. Seeing Tang Yuan's arrogance, they could only pretend not to see him, spending their days in seclusion cultivating, helping to break through the early nascent soul stage and reach the middle stage while still alive, thereby increasing their lifespan. Furthermore, the Tang family annually offered them some spiritual herbs, so these 2 nascent soul ancestors paid even less attention to the Tang family's actions in Wufeng Valley. Moreover, even if they wanted to intervene, they lacked the strength to confront Tang Yuan. It could be said that Wufeng Valley had almost become the Tang family's own sect. Initially, this phenomenon was met with some opposition, and there were many words and actions of protest within Wufeng Valley. But after several hundred years of reconciliation, there is now no longer any discord within Wufeng Valley. Even the disciples within the sect have come to understand the truth that the Tang family has become the master of Wufeng Valley. However, hundreds of years can change everything. Even the vast majority of the disciples of Wufeng Valley who were recently recruited were from 100 years ago. Wang Lin rode on the One Beast, his consciousness naturally focused on Wufeng Valley. He flew very fast, dragging behind him a dragon tendon, one tied to 7 corpses that were blown about by the wind. 1. Dragon tendon. Anyone who has seen Nezo will know this thing. With overwhelming killing intent, Wang Lin arrived outside the mountain gate of Wufeng Valley. Although Wufeng Valley is a famous valley, it is not a ravine. It is a somewhat famous mountain range in Zhao Kingdom called Wuxian Mountain, connected like a giant hand rising from the ground to form a strangely shaped mountain. Wufeng Valley is located on this mountain. This sect is divided into 5 peaks. Besides the main peak in the middle, there are 4 auxiliary peaks which are the locations of the branch sects. Many years ago, when Wufeng Valley was still prosperous, all 5 peaks were imbued with spiritual power. Inside, there were thousands of cultivators, making it a regional overlord. But now, the 5 immortal mountains are in decline, not to mention the lack of spiritual power and even fewer than 1,000 disciples. The majority of them are either at the Cha condensation stage or at the low level of the Cha condensation stage. As Wang Lin rode his spirit beast into the mountains, he was naturally noticed. A blue light appeared above the mountains, and Wang Lin was pushed back out. At the same time, a wave of killing intent emanated from the 5 peaks. 5 men in white robes stood on the 5 mountain peaks, each making hand gestures, with 5 flying swords blue, red, purple, yellow, and white hanging above their heads. Boundless spiritual energy surged from the mountaintop into the bodies of the 5 men. After undergoing a series of transformations, it flowed into their flying swords, emitting an incredibly powerful sword aura. Wang Lin's lips curled into a cold smile. These 5 were all members of the Tang family. Obviously, they had received the news, which meant the old man from the Tang family at the Heavenly Tao sect had sent the jade slip. This was unavoidable, and Wang Lin didn't try to avoid it. Otherwise, given the old man's abilities, Wang Lin could have easily prevented him from throwing the jade slip before hanging himself. Wang Lin wanted this outcome. He wanted the entire Zhao kingdom to know that he wanted to annihilate the Tang family for revenge, not as a strange event, but as an earth-shattering, spectacular act. Now Wang Lin had the right to do so. The 5 members of the Tang family were all in a gloomy mood. They had just received orders from Tang Gao to activate the mountain protection formation because a powerful enemy was attacking. But now that the formation was open, the 5 of them felt no relief. Instead, they felt as if they had been struck by lightning. They saw 7 corpses bound by dragon scales behind the silver-haired young man. Wang Lin didn't hesitate. Almost immediately after the mountain protection formation opened, he potted his storage bag, and an ancient-looking sword sheath instantly fell into his hand. His eyes revealed a cold, ruthless expression. If Wufeng Valley was going to confront the enemy with sword energy, then he would show them what true sword energy was like. Wang Lin flipped his right hand, and a flying sword shot out. In this storage bag, most of the items were low-level magical artifacts. After all, 400 years of accumulation meant the quantity wasn't small. He quickly sheathed the flying sword, but when it was about 4/5 full, a strong resistance suddenly appeared inside. At this moment, atop the 5 mountain peaks, 5 figures let out a low shout, and 5 streaks of sword light shot upwards from the flying swords above their heads. Suddenly, at this very moment, a stream of 5-colored sword energy appeared, seemingly causing the heavens and earth to change color, and not a single cloud remained in the sky. The 5 streams of sword energy, like 5 roaring dragons, angrily attacked Wang Lin. Wang Lin gripped the sword sheath, and he could feel that the killing intent mixed with the sword energy within had reached its limit. Almost instantly, he released his grip on the flying sword, and a stream of sword energy several times larger than the 5 streams of sword energy burst forth from within the sheath with overwhelming force. A powerful stream of sword energy mixed with dense killing intent, like an ancient divine dragon appearing. The 5 streams of sword energy unleashed by the 5 members of the Tang family were like newborn babies compared to a strong burly man. The difference was immense, and they were instantly crushed and devoured by the sword energy from within the sheath. Next, Wang Lin swung the sword in his hand, the thick, rough sword transforming into an ancient divine dragon-like sword energy. Descending ferociously towards the ground beneath the 5 immortal mountains, its mouth gaping open in a fierce roar as it struck. The ground shook violently, kicking up clouds of dust. The protective mountain formation of Wufeng Valley was instantly shattered, and 2 of the 5 peaks of the 5 immortal mountains collapsed with a thunderous crash. As for the Tang family members controlling the formation, they were clearly unable to withstand this immense force, their bodies exploding in an instant. But Wang Lin waved his right hand, and their bodies were bound by the dragon scales, swaying behind him. At the same time, Wang Lin's figure flashed, descending from the beast, heading towards Wufeng Valley, concentrating his divine consciousness to search and kill them one by one. Today, I have a personal vendetta against the Tang family. Anyone who stands in my way will be killed. A cold, ruthless voice slowly echoed throughout Wufeng Valley and the entire 5 immortal mountains. At this moment, ordinary people who heard these words felt an overwhelming chill in their hearts. Nearly 100 cultivators suddenly rushed out from the 5 immortal mountains, unleashing a barrage of sword light, each fleeing in all directions at top speed, desperately trying to escape. Without exception, these people were all members of the Tang family. Wang Lin's eyes grew even colder, his hands forming a series of incantations, releasing various restrictions in all directions. Immediately, within a 1,000-mile radius, it was as if a giant cup had been overturned, trapping everyone inside. One young cultivator, terrified and not daring to retaliate, fled. But before he could get far, an invisible hand gripped his body, and a series of screams rang out as his bones shattered, his breath ending in death. His eyes showed intense unwillingness, but he had to die, because he was a Tang. Two monks, a man and a woman, both members of the Tang family, were fleeing in utter terror, but a black flying sword instantly pierced their chests. Their bodies immediately turned pitch black, their souls captured, and their corpses bound by dragon scales. Wang Lin felt no pity. Each time he killed someone, images of his mother's kind face and his father's stern yet hopeful eyes flashed through his mind. All of this was caused by Tang Yuan. What was done could not be undone. Tang Yuan had forced his body to self-destruct years ago, nearly killing him. For 100 years of fleeing, experiencing countless life and death situations, he himself had countless times screamed in hatred, vowing to annihilate the entire Tang family. Investigating the cause of the situation, Wang Lin had absolutely no connection to it. Back then, he and Zhang Hu were in Tang family city and shouldn't have encountered any trouble. But because Tang Li's friend gave him a sound transmission jade slip, the two were inadvertently chased. Zhang Hu disappeared that year, his fate unknown. As for Wang Lin, he was relentlessly pursued by Tang Li, as if they had a deep-seated hatred. This kind of pursuit was like a big fish eating a small fish. A late-stage foundation establishment cultivator chasing a young novice who had only reached the cha condensation stage. Who would have stopped that? Tang Li, seeing Wang Lin possessing many magical treasures, became greedy and nearly killed Wang Lin. Who would have stopped that? In the dense forest, Wang Lin used his strength to protect himself, and Tang Li's spiritual power was severely depleted. Wouldn't he have killed him? Shouldn't seizing the foundation establishment stage increase his own power? Should he humbly kneel and beg for mercy, offering up the heaven-defying cauldron, the flying sword, the scabbard, and even his own life? No one would stop him, but when Wang Lin seized the foundation establishment stage, his ancestor Tang Yuan forcibly prevented him. Wasn't it true that in this world, only others could kill him, and he could never kill others? Wang Lin was unwilling to accept this, so he ignored Tang Yuan's outrageous demands and killed Tang Li, seizing the foundation establishment stage. All of this was Tang Li's own doing. But what Wang Lin never imagined was that Tang Yuan, a nascent soul cultivator, would actually kill a mortal, committing such a heinous act that would bring about divine retribution. The cultivation world has long had rules against the indiscriminate killing of mortals. Once this happened, all the cultivators needed to use all their strength to eliminate this person. But Tang Yuan killed Wang Lin's entire family, so why didn't a single cultivator step forward to speak a word of justice? No, 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 not a single person. Why is that? Because Tang Yuan had reached the nascent soul stage, controlling a powerful cultivation family, naturally becoming a regional overlord. No one would offend Tang Yuan for the sake of a mortal family, for the sake of a foundation establishment disciple. In their eyes, this was almost a joke. In Tang Yuan's eyes, Wang Lin was nothing more than an ant. He could kill Wang Lin, but Wang Lin couldn't kill his descendants. If Wang Lin killed his descendants, he would kill his entire family. Therefore, Wang Lin was now determined to carry out a massacre, killing every single member of the Tang family. He wasn't wrong at all. Although cruel and bloodthirsty, remembering the kind faces of his parents, remembering 400 years of life and death struggles, his killing intent instantly surged. If he didn't kill, he would be ashamed before his parents. If he didn't kill, he would be an unfilial son. If he didn't kill, he wouldn't be worthy of being called human. Whether they were righteous or demonic, since Wang Lin's corpse dissipated, he had naturally seen through everything. The area within 1,000 miles around Wufeng Valley had become a hellish realm of carnage. Each member of the Tang family died, their souls captured and absorbed into soul banners, their bodies bound to dragon scales. The ground gradually glowed with a reddish hue, not so deep as to flow into a river. After all, there were only 100 people, but it was enough to drive people into a state of frenzied rage. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, Wang Lin flew out from 1,000 miles away, carrying a severed head in his hand. This person was none other than Tang Gao, the highest-ranking member of the Tang family in Wufeng Valley. His eyes showed extreme fear, but all of this was unavoidable because he was from the Tang family. Behind Wang Lin, at the end of the dragon's tail, were 100 bound corpses. The corpses and heads slowly fanned out as Wang Lin flew. Anyone who saw this scene would be deeply shocked. After this massacre, 2 old men emerged from Wufeng Valley. These 2 were the 2 remaining nascent soul ancestors of Wufeng Valley. They showed no anger, but rather seemed gleeful. One of them softly said, "The Tang family is finished this time." The other man nodded, smiling, and said, "That's right, this person is incredibly powerful, definitely a major figure in the high-level cultivation world of the demonic sect. He's doing this to destroy the Tang family. I wonder if Park Nam-jae can withstand him. If he can't, then we won't be affected. Brother, I've always had a feeling of familiarity with this person, but I can't remember where I've met him. Brother, I thought I was the only one with this feeling." Unexpectedly, you feel the same way. Of course, we've met this person before. The 2 pondered for a long time, unable to recall who he was. They had long forgotten the year outside the valley, that young man, with his foundation establishment cultivation, had his body annihilated by Tang Yuan after a battle. Wang Lin rode his one beast, flying continuously. His eyes remained icy cold. At this moment, the target is a mountain estate spanning 8,000 miles in total, where the Tang family has 174 members. Tang Family City. Deng Yuan sat grimly in the main hall of the ancestral temple in Deng Family City. He held a jade slip in his hand, and 3 people knelt before him. Besides the 3 kneeling figures, a dozen or so others stood on either side, their heads bowed in silence, their eyes filled with fear. In 4 days, he has killed 961 members of my Deng family. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Deng Yuan laughed, his eyes growing even colder. He tossed the jade slip to one of the kneeling figures and said grimly, "Tanner, speak. Tell me all the information you gathered." The kneeling figure was a young man with a face as white as jade. His expression was grim as he received the jade slip, glancing at it briefly. His expression remained unchanged as he slowly said, 4 days ago, this person appeared at the Heavenly Tao sect, killed 7 members of my Deng family, and then left. On that same day, this person appeared in Wufeng Valley, using a sword-shaped magical artifact to shatter the mountain protection formation, destroying 2 mountain peaks, erecting a 1,000-mile-wide barrier, and killing all 93 members of the Tang family. 3 days ago, this person appeared in the Tang family's outer estate, killing all 174 members of a branch of the Tang family. On the same day, this person appeared in Tianyan City, and 104 members of a branch of the Tang family that had separated 200 years ago were also killed. 2 days ago, all 211 members of the Tang family's secondary branch living in the capital perished one after another within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. On the same day, 27 members of our Tang family in the Yuan Kui sect were also killed. Yesterday, 345 members of our clan who were sent to cultivate at the Shimi sect last month were all killed, their blood flowing like a river. As this person spoke, gasps of breath echoed through the hall. These people represented the lives of the Tang family's descendants. Tang Yuan clenched his fist, took a deep breath, and slowly said, "Have you investigated this person's identity yet?" The young man's expression remained cold as he shook his head and said, "We haven't investigated yet. Everyone in our Tang family who encountered this person has died. As for the disciples of other sects, they have been ordered not to speak. I also went to great lengths to find a portrait. Please take a look, ancestor." After saying this, he potted his storage bag and took out a scroll of paintings, slowly opening it before Tang Yuan. Inside was a sketch of a person, the drawing somewhat simple. This person had silver hair, a star mark on their forehead, and an entire face radiating fierce killing intent. They rode a strange, ferocious-looking demonic beast. The most distinctive feature of this beast was its extremely long mouth. The beast inside held a rope that stretched out behind it. At the end of the rope, countless branches split, each bound with a corpse, the bodies densely packed together like a fan. Even just glancing at the painting, the surrounding members of the Tang family gasped, their eyes filled with terror, their faces pale and devoid of color. Tang Yuan looked at the painting, his gaze immediately fixed on the young man's face. Gradually, disbelief appeared on his face. Almost without hesitation, he sprang to his feet, snatched the painting, and stared intently at the figure in it, veins bulging on his forehead. "So it's you!" A powerful aura suddenly surged from Tang Yuan. The surrounding tables and chairs instantly crumbled into dust. Even the nearby descendants, standing too close, let out a scream and vanished into thin air. The three kneeling figures quickly retreated. Except for the young man with the cold expression, the other two showed expressions of extreme fear. Everyone in the hall knew that the patriarch was furious. Over 900 people had been killed, yet the patriarch's gaze remained somber, not entirely enraged. But now, for some unknown reason, upon seeing the person in this painting, he unexpectedly lost control of the spiritual power within his body. Tang Yuan stared intently at the person in the painting, his eyes revealing an overwhelming fear that had been suppressed for a long time. He almost instantly recognized the person in the painting. It was Wang Lin from back then. But back then, he had personally witnessed Wang Lin's death. Seeing Wang Lin in the painting now, his heart trembled violently, and his spiritual power surged out. Tang Yuan still clearly remembered Wang Lin's eyes before he died. Those eyes had terrified him, and had haunted him for 400 years. "He has returned," Tang Yuan murmured to himself. At this moment, everyone in the hall was silently speculating. Who exactly was this person? The patriarch had obviously recognized him, and their relationship was very deep. Otherwise, his spiritual power wouldn't have spontaneously leaked out like that. However, those in the hall were all younger generations, and they couldn't possibly know about the events of 400 years ago. In fact, although many knew about this, few mentioned it. After all, a nascent soul cultivator killing an entire family of mortals was not something to be proud of. Tang Yuan's eyes darkened as he raised his head. Just as he was about to speak, a middle-aged man quickly entered the hall from outside. This man's appearance was somewhat similar to Tang Yuan's, and at this moment, he showed a look of panic on his face. After entering, he immediately knelt on the ground, his voice filled with panic and confusion. "Ancestor, it's impossible to get out." Tang Yuan raised his eyebrows and shouted, "Don't panic." "What do you mean it's impossible to get out?" The middle-aged man swallowed hard, took a deep breath, and hurriedly said, "A few days ago, there were rumors circulating in the clan that a luminous barrier, about 10,000 miles outside the Deng family's city, seemed to block the way. But today, I went out and found that it was indeed as rumored. It's impossible to step outside the 10,000-mile radius." Upon hearing this, everyone in the room fell silent. Tang Yuan's eyes flashed. He glanced at the middle-aged man and, without a word, left the ancestral hall. As soon as he left the hall, his body moved slightly, disappearing from the spot, and in an instant, he was 100 miles away. He didn't stop, flying like an arrow. After flying 10,000 miles, Tang Yuan's speed didn't decrease, and he charged forward fiercely. In an instant, a pink halo appeared, and Tang Yuan immediately plunged into it, creating ripples. However, this halo was incredibly resilient and durable. Although Tang Yuan pulled it far away, it was eventually pulled back. Tang Yuan's expression darkened further. He potted his storage bag, taking out several powerful magic treasures, testing them one by one, but ultimately failed to even slightly damage the halo. A feeling of unprecedented anxiety welled up in Tang Yuan's heart. He immediately suspected this halo was a forbidden formation set up by Wang Lin. His obvious purpose was to prevent the Tang family members from leaving Tang family city, forcing them to watch helplessly as he slaughtered their entire clan. This relentless killing even had another purpose, to draw many Tang family disciples from all over Zhao Kingdom back to Tang family city. Once all the members of the Tang family returned to Tang family city, it would be time for a massacre. However, Tang Yuan fundamentally didn't believe that this restriction was set up by Wang Lin. He thought that although Wang Lin might have miraculously escaped death, his current abilities could only reach the late stage of the Golden Core realm at most, or even the early stage of the Nascent Soul realm. Tang Yuan, having reached the late stage of the Nascent Soul realm, basically didn't care about Wang Lin. He was only wary of the person who set up this restriction. This person's abilities were undoubtedly profound and unfathomable. According to Tang Hui Yuan's analysis, this person was very likely a cultivator in the transformation god realm. Tang Hui Yuan pondered for a while. This was what worried him most. He secretly considered the relationship between the senior who set up the restriction and Wang Lin. Even if the relationship wasn't too deep, the consequences would be terrifying. Tang Hui Yuan simply couldn't have predicted that Wang Lin would be capable of setting up this restriction. After a moment of silence, his expression turned grim as he turned and left, hurrying back to Tang Family City. He spared no expense in using spirit stones to immediately activate all of Tang Family City's formations. Then, he immediately went into seclusion, maintaining himself in peak condition, ready for battle at any moment. 4 days of slaughter, nearly 1,000 deaths for Wang Lin. This was merely one step in his revenge plan. Compared to the entire Tang family bloodline of over 10,000 people, this number was just a small fraction. Wang Lin rode on his spirit beast. Behind him, nearly 1,000 corpses stretched for hundreds of meters. As he flew, the sunlight cast a large, elongated shadow on the ground. His eyes remained icy cold, like a block of ice that could not melt for 10,000 years. Wang Lin's next target was the Hewan sect. At this time, the Joyful Union sect had naturally become the #1 sect in the demonic path, with thousands of disciples and many powerful experts. The Tang family's descendants within this sect were also numerous, numbering 481. These might not all be disciples of the Joyful Union sect, but they were all gathered there. A few days ago, Wang Lin had killed over 300 people at the Annihilation sect, all of whom were Cha Condensation disciples. Through inquiries, Wang Lin learned that these were outstanding disciples of the Tang family who had come to the Annihilation sect for trials. Now, it seemed that the Tang family members at the Joyful Union sect were also there for trials. Wang Lin smiled, a cruel expression appearing at the corners of his mouth, and slowly flew towards the Joyful Union sect. But at this moment, his expression suddenly changed, and his gaze turned towards the east. In the distance, a colorful flower-decorated carriage, accompanied by a group of young boys and girls, slowly approached. Great Immortality P12 has arrived. Everyone else, make way. A melody drifted from afar. The colorful flower-decorated float, even more eye-catching under the bright sunlight, was surprisingly filled with rare spiritual herbs from Zhao Kingdom. Furthermore, the float was smothered in countless shimmering spakes of light, radiating in all directions, illuminating the entire float brilliantly in the sunlight like a sparkling star. Looking directly at it, one could even feel blinded. Even Wang Lin couldn't help but be momentarily stunned. These luminous, translucent objects were all low-grade spirit stones. How precious and numerous these spirit stones were! In fact, if he displayed them all, he could count them as nearly 100. However, despite his long life and vast knowledge, this was the first time he had encountered such ostentation. On that flower-decorated carriage, surrounded by young men and women, a group of them all strikingly handsome. From their bodies, only the spiritual power of the third stage of the Cha Condensation realm was visible. Yet their arrogance was clearly extraordinary, even surpassing some modest nascent soul cultivators by 3/3. As the carriage approached, Wang Lin's eyes remained calm, and he leisurely stood up to observe. The carriage of the great immortal Shimo is approaching. Please make way. A sharp voice rang out, followed by young men shouting, glaring at Wang Lin, not even glancing at the pile of corpses behind him. Shimo, he pondered for a moment. Those two words sounded somewhat familiar, as if he had heard them before. After a while, his eyes suddenly lit up, staring intently at the carriage, and slowly said, "Old man TICMCC, how dare you?" Almost simultaneously, the group of teenagers roared, clearly having practiced many times. So many people shouting at once could be quite intimidating, but to Wang Lin, it was nothing significant. "You're all being presumptuous, get out of here." A sharp voice rang out from inside the carriage, and immediately afterward, the curtain of the leading carriage slowly lifted, revealing a large, luxurious bed inside. On the bed lay a man as fat as a mountain of flesh, his face glistening with grace, so obese he was almost unrecognizable. He was draped in a beautiful carpet inlaid with 100 mid-grade spirit stones. "You know me," the fat old man glanced at the pile of corpses behind Wang Lin, raising his eyebrows. "Fellow Taoist, what did they do to provoke you? Why are you killing them indiscriminately?" It seems that the old man, like Wang Lin, is also in the early nascent soul stage. Although Wang Lin's demonic beast looks terrifying, he doesn't care about it at all. Jimo has been wreaking havoc in Zhou Kingdom for several years. Since cultivating to the nascent soul stage, except for a few late nascent soul old monsters, he basically disregards ordinary cultivators. His cultivation is heavily involved with the dark light technique. His method is a cultivation technique specializing in crafting puppets. Although he is only in the early nascent soul stage, he has quite a few ancient corpse puppets in his storage bag. In fact, Jimo had been researching and frequently seeking out various corpse demons and other spiritual creatures for years, using his cultivation technique to refine them. A cruel smile curled at the corner of Wang Lin's mouth. His right arm moved slightly, and a dragon-like appendage flew from behind the beast, carrying a human head. He grabbed it and calmly said, "You know this person, don't you?" Old man TICMCC was stunned. He hadn't looked closely before, only thinking it was a bloodthirsty cultivator. Now, upon closer inspection, the corpse's head had a ferocious face, making it difficult to recognize. Looking even more closely, he suddenly widened his eyes in shock. Tang Gao. This Tang Gao was a descendant of the Tang family in Wufang Valley, a sect leader, and therefore highly regarded by Tang Hua Yuan within the Tang family. Zhou Kingdom wasn't large, and old man TICMCC had obviously encountered such figures before. His divine consciousness swept across the area, this time examining it extremely carefully and slowly, his expression grim. He clearly understood the importance of the corpse before him. Almost taking a sharp breath, he stared intently at Wang Lin. These people, are they all from the Tang family? He spoke cautiously, not daring to underestimate the other party. Although the Tang family's cultivation level wasn't high, to be able to kill so many, and even tie up a whole bunch of them behind him, he must be either insane or incredibly arrogant, and afraid of the Tang family's ancestors seeking revenge. Therefore, the old men secretly became much more cautious of Wang Lin. He had already decided that this person was definitely not someone to be trifled with. One must know that Tang Hua Yuan had reached the late nascent soul stage, and there were many other powerful experts in the family. This person's actions showed he didn't care about the Tang family at all. This madman, Shimo, really didn't want to provoke. His face almost instantly broke into a smile. Excellent, very good killing. I've long disliked the Tang family, and it's good that you killed them all. Take your time killing them. I have other matters to attend to, so I'll leave first. Having said that, the old man hastily tried to move the carriage backward, getting as far away from this murderous figure as possible. The coldness in Wang Lin's eyes intensified, and he slowly said, "Do you want to know why I murdered the Tang family?" Old man TICMCC paused briefly, feeling something was amiss. After a moment of hesitation, he shook his head. "I don't want to know. Fellow Taoist, I bid you farewell." Without a second's delay, the carriage sped away, not even bothering to pay attention to the young men and women. Wang Lin didn't stop him, patting his storage bag. Immediately, the Forbidden's banner under his hand trembled, and a black curtain instantly enveloped an area of 1,000 miles. Old man TICMCC turned to stare at him, his expression grim, and shouted, "Fellow Taoist, I have no intention of interfering in your affairs with the Tang family. What do you mean by this? You and I are of equal cultivation. Don't think I'm afraid of you." Wang Lin calmly looked at him, a hint of mockery in his voice. 400 years ago, your young disciple died unexpectedly. Do you still remember? Hearing these words, the old man was stunned, but quickly he stared at Wang Lin without saying a word. "That young disciple of yours, I killed him. He had a disciple named Zhang Hu, and this person and I were fellow disciples," Wang Lin said calmly. The fat on old man Shimo's face twitched slightly, his smile not reaching his eyes. If it needed to be killed, then it had to be. "That was 400 years ago. I've forgotten." Although he spoke with a smile, his right hand rested on his storage bag, and immediately 4 plumes of black smoke shot out from within, standing in for different directions. The 4 plumes of black smoke gradually dissipated, revealing 4 dried corpses. Old man Shimo, who rarely used his earth-turn spell when fighting, had already summoned 4 dried corpses before even engaging in combat, clearly showing some apprehension towards Wang Lin. All 4 dried corpses were close to the early nascent soul stage of cultivation. But Wang Lin didn't even glance at him, continuing his story. After that, Zhang Hu and I were in Tang Family City, and we were relentlessly pursued by Tang Hui Yuan's nephew. I think you must remember, right? Old man Tixing's face flushed crimson as he stood frozen. Only after a moment did he say, actually, that Zhang fellow. He stopped abruptly, his eyes flashing, his fleshy body suddenly flying away with the carriage, rapidly retreating backward. At the same time, his right hand shot 4 drops of fresh blood into the air, landing on 4 dried corpses. The 4 corpses immediately opened their eyes, flashing red light, howling like wild beasts, and attacking Wang Lin. Wang Lin's gaze remained calm, his right hand forming a hand seal, and he softly shouted, "Forbiddens." Immediately, 8 Forbiddens artifacts suddenly appeared from the black curtain in midair, wrapping around the 4 corpses. At the same time, Wang Lin moved, neither fast nor slow, chasing after Old Man Tixing. Although the Old Man TGC was bulging with flesh, his speed was not slow at all. He ran swiftly, occasionally using teleportation. But Wang Lin's figure clung to him like bone marrow, sticking to him no matter how he moved, always staying close. TICMCC gritted his teeth, his body instantly stopped, his hands forming a hand seal, and his whole body suddenly trembled. Immediately afterward, his obese body strangely moved, slowly shrinking, and at the same time, his breath became powerful, his hair, without wind, fluttered in all directions as the spiritual energy spread. His cultivation, along with the shrinking of the massive flesh on his body, was frantically increasing from the early nascent soul stage to the middle nascent soul stage. Finally, what appeared before Wang Lin was a middle-aged man with an extremely strong physique, quite handsome, with thick eyebrows and large eyes, clear features, and a straightforward and upright demeanor. The old man's cultivation, like a storm, surged to the peak of the mid-stage nascent soul, just a little short of the late stage. Staring at Wang Lin, he said gloomily, "You should feel honored. You are the first to see my form after I formed my nascent soul. Alas, in this world, there are truly few who can make me fully unleash my magic. True masters are hard to find. I truly can't bear to kill you. If I gave you another 800 years, you would probably have matured much more. So, cut off one of your own hands. Out of consideration for your low cultivation level, I won't kill you for 100 years. I hope that after another 100 years, you can catch up to my strength. I truly look forward to that day." After saying this, the old man's face showed arrogance and pride. He clasped his hands behind his back, looked up at the sky, and displayed an air of disdain for the world, even sighing as if in a state of loneliness. After sighing, the old man glanced deeply at Wang Lin, then slowly turned and flew away. Only after flying 100 meters away did he suddenly accelerate, soaring away without looking back. Wang Lin's eyes showed a strange expression. Suddenly, a red light flashed. His supreme divine consciousness stirred, transforming into countless red lightning bolts that sped away. Immediately, Shimo's eyes darkened, his face filled with disbelief. His body tilted, and he plummeted from midair. After several powerful restrictions roared, his body shattered. At the same time, a storage bag flew out from the pile of flesh and landed in Wang Lin's hand. Wang Lin's body flashed and disappeared from the spot, instantly reappearing where the 4 corpses stood motionless. He examined them briefly, pondered for a moment, and used his divine consciousness to inspect the contents of the storage bag, taking out several jade slips to look through. After a while, he found the method for crafting puppets on one of the jade slips. After examining the jade slip, Wang Lin made a hand gesture. Following the instructions of the jade slip, he unleashed several streams of spiritual light onto the puppets' foreheads. And immediately the 4 puppets transformed into black smoke and entered his storage bag. He then placed the storage bag against his chest. His body moved slightly and he mounted the Wen beast, flying swiftly back to the Hewan sect. Meanwhile, within the Hewan sect, the first ancestor, the Yin-Yang elder, paced back and forth in the hall with a gloomy expression, his hands clasped behind his back, his mind filled with hesitation and uncertainty. 3 people sat around him in the main hall, a man and 2 women. The man was handsome, the women charming, all possessing nascent soul cultivation. Their brows furrowed, clearly burdened with worries. Senior brother, could demonic cultivators really have transformation gut cultivation? Junior sister finds it hard to believe, the woman in the yellow silk dress said, her voice alluring. Her silk dress clung to her body, revealing her figure and making hearts pound. If it weren't for her deeply melancholic face, she would undoubtedly possess an alluring charm that captivated hearts. The yin-yang elder snorted softly, stopping his steps and saying in a low voice, Huang Dacian of the Heavenly Tao sect, with his early nascent soul cultivation, was instantly killed by a single glance from him. Such a level of cultivation, even if you called him a god transformation cultivator, would still be underestimating him. The woman in the yellow dress frowned even more. Senior brother, perhaps we should drive away all the Tang family disciples. That way, that demonic cultivator won't come to our Hewan sect. The middle-aged man, who had been silent until now, spoke in a low voice. The yin-yang elder rubbed his temples and shook his head. Wouldn't that offend the entire Tang family? Tang Hui Yuan's cultivation is divine, although we are both late nascent soul cultivators. If we were to engage in combat, I would still have to assess my own strength. The entire hall fell silent. A moment later, the yin-yang elder's eyes flashed, his heart seemingly having made a decision. He said in a deep voice, that person hasn't arrived yet. There must be a problem. Well, that old scoundrel Tang Hui Yuan is vengeful and will always seek revenge. If we hand over the Tang family today, as long as he's not dead, we'll face endless trouble in the future. Junior brother, inform everyone to activate the entire mountain protection formation. I will personally lead the main formation and must stop that demonic cultivator. The middle-aged man nodded, but still hesitated slightly. Senior brother, what if the old villain Tang dies? The yin-yang elder's eyes flashed, and he smiled sinisterly. Junior brother, don't underestimate Park Mom-Su. If he wants to stop us, even if his cultivation isn't enough, surely the cultivation of that person in the Tongshan Tower is. The middle-aged man was stunned, his eyes immediately showing a hint of surprise, and he quickly agreed. At this moment, inside the Hewan sect, a middle-aged man with a weary expression and a persistent cough emerged from his room. He carried a bundle of clothes in his hand, his whole body slumped as he slowly walked out. Although only middle-aged, his hair was already graying, and he walked with a slight limp. A deep, resonant bell echoed throughout the Hewan sect. 9 consecutive bell tolls meant that all disciples had to assemble in the main hall square within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Any delay would result in severe punishment. Hearing the bell, the man initially paid no attention, but after 9 tolls, he stopped, looked up towards the main hall in the distance, and seemed greatly surprised. He had been in the Hewan sect for many years, and this was the first time he had heard 9 consecutive bell tolls. He hesitated for a moment, then hid his hands among the clothes and hurried towards the main hall. But his body was too weak. He was out of breath after only a few steps. By the time he reached the main hall, almost everyone had already gathered, sitting cross-legged outside. The entire square was packed with countless disciples. Even the 4 surrounding private courtyards were crammed with them. A faint aura emanated from each person. The middle-aged man quickly hid in a corner, found a small mat, and sat down cross-legged to catch his breath. Suddenly, a wave of astonished cries erupted from all sides. Seeing everyone looking up at the sky, he also looked up, completely stunned. From midair, an extremely ferocious demonic beast had appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. This beast had a huge mouth, inside which was a rope, the end of which bound countless corpses. On top of its head stood a person, their white hair fluttering in the wind, their appearance ordinary but radiating an intense aura of killing intent. The middle-aged man stared at the person for a moment, then suddenly raised his eyebrows. He felt as if he had met this person somewhere before, but he couldn't quite place it. Wang Lin looked at the Hewan sect's mountain gate below, sensing a protective formation above it that was probably several times stronger than the Heavenly Tao sect's Wufeng Valley. The formation's power was immense. Unless one's cultivation reached the transformation god stage, it would be very difficult to break through it in a short time. The key to this formation was that it gathered the spiritual power of thousands of Hewan sect disciples. Simply sitting within the luminous aura would automatically turn them into spiritual power transmitters for the formation. Therefore, breaking the formation would almost require fighting thousands of cultivators simultaneously. The Deng family disciples were right there in the main hall. Clearly, these Hewan sect disciples wanted to challenge him. Wang Lin's gaze calmly swept across the ground, finally settling on an old man standing in the square, and he slowly said, "If this formation isn't opened, this place will be drenched in blood." That old man was indeed the yin-yang elder. He looked at Wang Lin, his eyebrows furrowing even tighter. Hearing him speak, he immediately raised his voice. "Doused friend, what brings you here?" A cold smile flicked across his lips, and a red lightning bolt appeared in his eyes. This formation, though powerful, would collapse if its guardian died. His supreme realm divine consciousness flashed in an instant, transforming into a blood-red lightning bolt, suddenly stopping above the grand formation. The formation didn't even tremble, leaving the yin-yang elder stunned. But immediately afterward, a dozen disciples above the main hall let out a miserable cry, blood gushing from their orifices as they fell dead. At the moment of their death, the halo beneath them flickered, then quickly faded and disappeared. "Will you open it?" Wang Lin's voice was icy cold. The yin-yang elder chuckled coldly without speaking. His supreme realm divine consciousness stirred again, and this time 10 red lightning bolts struck the formation. Immediately, more than 100 disciples within the formation spat out fresh blood, their bodies convulsed a few times, and they fell dead. A feeling of terror spread throughout the remaining disciples. "Are you going to open it?" Wang Lin calmly looked at the yin-yang elder. The old man's face darkened, and he silently sat down cross-legged, his entire body's spiritual power flowing and merging into the formation, not bothering to answer a single word. Beside him were 3 nascent soul stage cultivators, who also silently gritted their teeth and sat down cross-legged. Suddenly, hundreds of lightning bolts formed from his supreme realm divine consciousness, almost forming a chain, whirled down upon the great formation. At the same time, throughout the entire square, among the disciples surrounding it, nearly 1,000 bodies suddenly self-destructed, turning into a layer of blood mist. At this moment, none of the remaining disciples dared to sit any longer. Regardless of the reprimands from their masters and elders, they stood up in fear. "Are you going to open it?" Wang Lin's voice at this moment was like the Grim Reaper demanding a life, chilling and filled with murderous intent. The yin-yang elder spat out fresh blood, his face turning from green to red, his heart fiercely struggling. The man and 2 women beside him had also fallen, undoubtedly injured. Wang Lin took a deep breath, patted his storage bag, and took out a jade bottle. After crushing it, 3 streams of nascent soul essence immediately flew out. While everyone was still staring in astonishment, he opened his mouth and swallowed them whole. Then a cold glint flashed in his eyes, shooting out thousands of dazzling red rays of light. His right hand slowly rose, and a red lightning ball gradually condensed in his palm. This lightning ball, entirely formed from the extreme realm, grew larger and larger until it was almost the size of a fist, then floated out from his hand. The old yin-yang man's eyes were filled with terror. He had lived for so many years, and this was the first time he'd seen someone treat a nascent soul like a mere food item. Looking at the continuously growing lightning ball, he almost immediately roared, "Fellow Taoist, please stop. I'll open it, I'll open it. I don't care about the Tang family's affairs." Saying this, he immediately stood up, quickly produced a jade slip, and after producing it, struck it with a spiritual secret technique. Immediately, the entire formation covering the Hewan sect trembled, almost instantly dissipating as the lightning ball descended. The old yin-yang man wiped the sweat from his forehead. After opening the formation, he didn't dare linger, hastily bowing respectfully. "Senior, the Tang family members are all inside the main hall." Wang Lin didn't even glance at him, turning and walking into the main hall. Inside, there was no sound, only a strong, pungent smell of blood. After half an incensed 6th time, Wang Lin calmly emerged, his right hand waving. Immediately, a ferocious beast in midair flew up and entered the main hall, sweeping out hundreds of corpses. The faces of these corpses revealed intense resentment and fear. They weren't very old. If Wang Lin hadn't appeared, surely next year, many of them would have reached the core formation stage, or even the nascent soul stage. However, they shouldn't have borne the Tang surname. Or perhaps, Tang Li shouldn't have relentlessly pursued Wang Lin back then. The saying goes, a slip of the tongue can lead to a mile of trouble. Does Tang Li know this in the afterlife? If he did, perhaps he wouldn't have relentlessly hunted Wang Lin. It could also be said that if Tang Yuan hadn't initiated the extermination of the Wang family back then, Wang Lin wouldn't have come seeking revenge today, simply because there was no enmity. After killing Tang Li, and then being killed by Tang Yuan, all the hatred was considered settled. In fact, what Wang Lin was doing now wasn't for himself, but for his parents. Just as he was about to leave, a soft voice suddenly called out from the square, Wang Lin. The sound was very faint, the voice so weak it was almost inaudible. Wang Lin stopped, turned his head to look in the direction of the sound, and saw a frail middle-aged man in the distance. This man was staring at Wang Lin in astonishment, his eyes seemingly recalling some memory. Wang Lin looked at him. He seemed somewhat familiar. He quickened his pace, approached the middle-aged man, and knelt down, slowly asking, "What did you just say?" The middle-aged man hesitated for a moment, then smiled, a bitter smile, and respectfully lowered his voice. "Senior, I mistook you for someone else. I hope you won't be offended." Wang Lin scrutinized him carefully, pondering, "What? You know me?" The middle-aged man burst into laughter, the laughter even more bitter, and sighed, "Senior, I have a junior disciple. It was I who brought him up the mountain years ago." Wang Lin's heart skipped a beat. He finally remembered who this person was. After a moment of silence, he waved his sleeve, instantly sweeping the man away from the Hewan sect. On a cliff about 100 miles outside the Hewan sect, Wang Lin appeared, placing the middle-aged man behind him, silently observing him. The middle-aged man looked at him, his expression complex, and whispered, "You brother Zhang, if you recognize me, why pretend not to know me?" Wang Lin sighed, slowly asking. The middle-aged man trembled, remained silent for a moment, then gave a bitter smile. "Alas, how is the Hangyu sect doing now?" Wang Lin looked at the man in front of him, the scene from that year flashing before his eyes, his heart tightening slightly. After a long time, he could suddenly ask a question. "It's been many years since I returned," the man replied softly. "Why is brother Zhang in the Hewan sect? Moreover, your cultivation?" Wang Lin raised his eyebrows, took the first senior brother's arm, pondered for a while, and then asked again. "Your spiritual power is abnormally chaotic within your body. Your meridians are unexpectedly weak." The middle-aged man smiled bitterly. "You left and never returned the year. The patriarchs poured all their efforts into cultivating me, expending considerable energy to help me raise my cultivation to the late stage of the Golden Core realm. I left the Hengyu sect, intending to gain experience and cultivate until the day I could form a Golden Core, once again bringing glory to the Hengyu sect. But unexpectedly, I encountered a woman. She was a disciple of the Hewan sect. Alas, what a waste of my cultivation! That despicable woman promised to show mercy and not kill me, instead using my body to refine the Hewan elixir. As long as this elixir is not yet refined, although I am a cripple, my lifespan will not be lost. Otherwise, I would have long since become a pile of white bones." Wang Lin remained silent, patting his storage bag, and from within took out a small white jade bottle, handing it to his senior brother. "Here are 7 pills, take one each month, and after 7 months, your cultivation will at least be restored by half. Senior brother Zhang, I have an important matter to attend to, so I must bid you farewell today. I hope we meet again someday." After saying this, Wang Lin silently gazed deeply at his senior brother, then turned and vanished. The enormous beast behind him, carrying a pile of corpses bundled together like a small mountain, flew away into the distance. The man watched Wang Lin's disappearing figure, his eyes filled with admiration mixed with a touch of melancholy. He had called out Wang Lin's name earlier, clearly recognizing his junior brother, but the junior brother he had brought up the mountain that day had changed so drastically. His cultivation unbelievably high. His memory confirmed that this was indeed Wang Lin, but deep down he couldn't believe it. Clenching the jade bottle tightly, he took a deep breath, stretched, and hobbled away. As Wang Lin flew, his divine sense spread out. At this moment, all the Tang family bloodlines in Zhou Kingdom, through various means, had learned of this shocking massacre. Everything was completely under Wang Lin's control. These people were all moving. Their target was now Tang Family City. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a cold and ruthless look, and he thought to himself, "Run. When you all gather in Tang Family City, that's when I'll meet Tang Hua Yuan." Moving a considerable distance, Wang Lin's divine sense continuously scanned, discovering 7 bright spots, which remained motionless. After many days of killing, Wang Lin had naturally learned through various methods that the Tang family had 9 core members. In terms of cultivation, except for Tang Hua Yuan, very few people knew about these 9. It could be said that these 9 were personally trained by Tang Hua Yuan and were destined to inherit the Tang family's legacy in the future. To cultivate these 9 core members of the clan, Teng Ichue Yuan had to put in a great deal of effort. He opened 9 spiritual acupoints throughout the Zhao Kingdom, and all 9 spent almost an entire year in seclusion. All elixirs, magical artifacts, and cultivation techniques were sourced and delivered by the Teng family. Their only task was cultivation. Periodically, Teng Ichue Yuan would visit them, taking them to various dangerous locations around the country for practical combat training. It can be said that these 9 core members, regardless of their cultivation level or combat experience, had almost reached the peak. All 9 had received all the resources of the Teng family and were tempered to become so. Furthermore, these 9 were not invariably replaced. Every 50 years, any member of the Teng family had the opportunity to challenge them once. Upon victory, they would qualify to replace them as core members of the clan, cultivating in the Earth Spirit acupoints and receiving the full support of the Teng family. Therefore, these 9 core members of the clan, excluding 1, had changed hands more than 3 times. With this kind of test, one can imagine the cultivation level of the core members. Wang Lin sensed 7 points of light that remained motionless. They were indeed core members of the clan. 2 of them, having been summoned back to Teng Family City earlier, had not yet returned. A ruthless glint flashed in his eyes. At this moment, almost all of the Teng family members, according to his plan, were heading towards Teng Family City. Of course, Wang Lin didn't need to worry about them. His target was those 7. These 7 were the core members of the Teng family, continuously refined and cultivated over the years. These 7 must die. A black wind full of killing intent arose, carrying a hint of blood, slowly dissipating from the air. Wang Lin's figure, like a vengeful rakshasa, flew towards the distant sand dunes. Tengjiu, a name, and also a glorious title. This name, of course, has changed hands several times, to be precise, 6 times. Tengjiu sat cross-legged in a secret room. The room was generally quite simply furnished, but Tengjiu knew that countless members of the Teng family had been and were still desperately wanting to enter it. He, back then, was one of those desperate people. From a young age, he had been called a genius, always harboring the dream of replacing others to become a core disciple. Because only by becoming a core disciple could he hold his head high in the Teng family, only then could he be noticed by the patriarch. Only then could he become a nascent soul-stage cultivator. Born into a collateral branch of the Teng clan, he had been accustomed to seeing his clansmen flatter and exploit him since childhood, experiencing all kinds of injustice and grievances. His childhood had been filled with many hardships, causing his heart to gradually become as cold as ice. For power, he would not hesitate to sacrifice anything, even when he learned he had earned the right to challenge the core members of the clan. His first act of murder was to kill someone, and the first person to die at his hands was his own brother, because his brother was one of his rivals. The entire Teng clan held a ritual to challenge the core members every 50 years, regardless of the outcome, ultimately selecting 9 challengers. Step by step, through various means, he became one of these 9. All he did was shed blood and abandon all dignity and humanity to obtain the position of challenger. To be able to challenge, he unhesitatingly cultivated the most vicious secret technique in the clan, devouring the spiritual power of others to increase his own cultivation. This technique severely shortened the lifespan of the practitioner but allowed for a rapid increase in cultivation. Anyway, his enemy, who was also the previous owner of the name Tengjiu, had reached the late stage of the Golden Core realm. Tengjiu looked at the secret chamber with satisfaction. The spiritual energy inside was many times denser than outside. Although the room was simply furnished, upon closer inspection, one could see that the materials used to build it were all top-grade spirit stones. Beneath this secret chamber was an underground spiritual vein. Although not large, it was a luxury for a cultivator. Tengjiu lacked nothing in terms of elixirs. He could obtain any elixir in the world if he requested it. He had many cultivation techniques. He could obtain techniques from various sects if he wanted to see them. He had many magical artifacts, each of which was at the nascent soul level. And women, Tengjiu certainly didn't lack. If he needed it, the Teng family would immediately send countless women with certain cultivation levels for him to absorb. Tengjiu didn't care about any of that. That's because he was the core member of the clan, entitled to everything. His only task was cultivation, and more cultivation. Wang Lin floated through the air. Using his divine sense, he could clearly see a secret chamber within the sand dunes, and inside was a person, his prey. he could discern this person's cultivation level. Besides Tang Hui Yuan, this person was the first nascent soul cultivator. Regardless of cultivation level, a dense and yielding aura of killing intent emanated from his body. Without experiencing various tribulations, it would be difficult for an ordinary person to possess such a level of killing intent. Although it was several levels lower than Wang Lin's killing intent, this person's killing intent was even stronger than that of some demonic cultivators. Wang Lin's lips twitched slightly. This person, though from the Tang family, made his eyes light up. It's important to know that the first condition for becoming a demon is to possess inherent ferocity. The greater the ferocity, the more terrifying the power displayed upon becoming a demon. Wang Lin formed a hand seal and suddenly pressed down on the ground. Immediately, a handprint appeared on the sand dune. A rumbling sound echoed as the handprint deepened, pressing down forcefully. Tang Jiu, who was in the secret chamber, suddenly opened his eyes. Almost without hesitation, his body flashed, and he vanished from the room. The moment he disappeared, the entire room rumbled and collapsed, a massive mass of sand continuously flowing down, forming a deep, swirling hole. Tang Jiu reappeared in midair, his eyes filled with murderous intent. He looked down at the now vanished secret chamber, his killing intent reaching its peak as he stared intently at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes flickered. His mind focused on the dense killing intent emanating from the young man. If he were to be made into a demon, he would undoubtedly become an incredibly powerful one. The young man didn't act rashly, he merely glanced at the pile of corpses behind Wang Lin, then, without a word, turned and fled, his speed incredibly fast, disappearing in an instant. A cold smile flicked across Wang Lin's lips as he slightly leapt forward, flying swiftly to pursue him closely. Tang Jiu ran for 1,000 miles, but the sense of danger relentlessly pursued him. This feeling made him slightly uneasy and fearful. The feeling grew stronger, and finally Tang Jiu's eyes flashed. He potted his storage bag, and suddenly a gray bead appeared in his hand. He narrowed his eyes at the bead and tossed it behind him. Almost instantly, as the opponent snatched the storage bag, Wang Lin also produced a forbidden spanner. With a slight wave of his hand, more than 10 forbidden artifacts flew out, forming a protective arc in front of him. At the same time, the bead flew towards him and stopped on the protective circle. A deafening roar resounded, and the bead exploded. Tang Jiu showed no sign of joy. Instead, his expression became even more serious and heavy, and he accelerated even faster. This sense of danger, far from diminishing, intensified, pressing down on him. As he was frantically fleeing, all the hairs on his body suddenly stood on end. Almost without a moment's hesitation, he reflexively turned and dodged, only to see a blood-red lightning bolt narrowly miss him. Tang Jiu's eyes, filled with terror, followed the red lightning bolt. He clearly sensed the scent of death. He certainly knew better than anyone that, at that crucial moment, if he hadn't instinctively dodged quickly, being struck by this lightning bolt would have meant certain death. But before he could feel fortunate, his vision blurred, and he saw hundreds of bright red lightning bolts slowly appearing, surrounding him from above, below, left, and right, blocking all his escape routes. Tang Jiu froze, unable to move, only able to slowly and cautiously turn around, looking at Wang Lin and saying, "Senior, I am willing to accept you as my master. From now on, I will never betray you for the rest of my life. I am willing to offer my soul blood as a guarantee." Wang Lin looked deeply at Tang Jiu, slowly shook his head, and said nothing. With a movement of his divine consciousness, the hundreds of lightning bolts surrounding Tang Jiu slowly contracted. Tang Jiu's heart turned cold. He quickly took out several magic treasures from his storage bag and simultaneously summoned them, but none could break through the red lightning net. The moment they touched the lightning net, his divine consciousness on the magic treasures shattered, and the treasures subsequently fell to the ground. Each time a magical artifact containing his divine consciousness was destroyed, his head ached terribly. Gradually, the look of terror on his face intensified. "You must die, because you are a Tang." Wang Lin's voice, neither fast nor slow, reached him, and at the same time, a faint, almost imperceptible, killing intent emanated from him. Tang Jiu's entire body trembled, his eyes bloodshot, he roared wildly and charged forward frantically. But at the moment his body touched the lightning, he let out a pained cry, unable to die. Only his body slumped to the ground. How could Wang Lin possibly kill such a future great demon? A slight smile curled at the corner of his mouth. Using a member of the Tang family to create a demon would certainly be quite interesting. As the red lightning net continuously contracted and drew closer, Tang Ju's heart crumbled. At the moment death approached so closely that it seemed tangible, he became utterly desperate. This feeling grew stronger and stronger, crushing his mind and driving him to the brink of self-destruction. At that moment, Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and he leapt from the beast, effortlessly entering the death net. His right hand gripped Tang Ju's throat, exerting immense force. With two cracking sounds, Tang Ju's eyes, filled with despair, dimmed, and he died instantly. Just as he was about to step through the gates of hell, Wang Lin's left hand performed a strange incantation, placing it between Tang Ju's eyebrows. In the name of soul devouring, I will seize your soul. A pink light emanated from Tang Ju's eyebrows. As the pink light appeared, attempting to escape, Wang Lin caught it, and a soul banner appeared in his hand. He casually tossed Tang Ju's corpse behind him, glancing with satisfaction at the soul in his hand. It should be said that he had once dreamt of encountering a place like the Outer Realm battlefield. If he could command an incredibly large army of demons, he could live completely peacefully in the cultivation world, and even if he encountered a stronger cultivator, he wouldn't have to fear them. However, truly powerful demons are extremely rare. For the past 400 years, Wang Lin has searched everywhere, and not counting the soul of Tang Ju that he recently captured, he has only found 3. Suli Guo was a man-made creation with many flaws. If it weren't for the fact that Suli Guo differed from other demons that his consciousness had awakened, Wang Lin would have easily eliminated him and raised another demon. The second demon was initially quite satisfactory to Wang Lin. Its ferocity was very strong, but as its cultivation increased, although its speed was very fast, its power was not great, and it was often ineffective. The third demon was refined from the soul of a spirit ape. Its power was extremely high, but its ferocity was insufficient. The 3 demonic heads that followed Wang Lin were vastly inferior to the extremely ferocious wandering souls that wreaked havoc on the Outer Realm battlefield, and were not something Wang Lin was truly satisfied with. But now it was different. If he used these souls to refine demonic heads, regardless of ferocity or strength, they would all be top tier. Although they were still inferior to truly wild wandering souls, the difference wasn't significant. If those core disciples were all like this one, then Tang Ichue Yuan, I would actually thank you for cultivating so many excellent demonic heads for me. Wang Lin muttered to himself, his eyes shining as he looked towards where the other core disciples were still in seclusion, continuing their slaughter. He observed with his divine consciousness. Except for one in Zhao Kingdom and the border of a neighboring country who remained motionless, the rest had all left their seclusion, obviously intending to return to Tang Family City. If he hadn't seen Tang Ju first, Wang Lin would probably have stormed straight into Tang Family City and slaughtered everyone along the way. Now that he knew Tang Ju's rare treasure, how could Wang Lin let go? Although the beast's flying speed was fast, it certainly couldn't satisfy Wang Lin's requirements. He took out a bottle of pills from his storage bag and, without hesitation, put them into his mouth. After swallowing, his eyes suddenly shone brightly, and he leapt onto the beast's back, unleashing his maximum speed to fly towards the nearest bright spot. Tang Ba flew neither fast nor slow in the air, his eyes calm and showing no sign of tension. In fact, he himself hadn't thought about returning to Tang Family City. The recent series of massacres had left the Tang family members bewildered and terrified. Most importantly, the Tang family's ancestor didn't seem to care about this at all, not leaving Tang Family City for a single step, making the situation even more bizarre. At this moment, Tang Ba was preparing to return to Tang Family City to find out the crucial reason. He flew while spreading out his divine consciousness to observe his surroundings. Even the slightest breeze or rustling of a blade of grass would trigger a reaction. In fact, Tang Ba didn't think the cultivator who had almost wiped out the Tang family had the courage or madness to come looking for him and cause trouble. After all, the highest cultivation level of the one he had killed was only at the core formation stage. Tang Ba believed that he could easily do the same. His cultivation had reached the mid-stage of the nascent soul realm. With this level of cultivation, he could freely travel throughout Zhao Kingdom. Even if he were to encounter old monsters who had reached the late stage, Tang Ba was still inferior, but he wasn't afraid at all. Throughout Zhao Kingdom, there were only 2 people who could truly frighten him. Of those two, the one he feared most wasn't Tang Hui Yuan, but Tang Yi. Tang Hui Yuan could only be second. In his heart, Tang Yi was a nightmare. Even the mere thought of him sent chills down his spine. Besides those two, he feared no one else. In his heart, he even harbored a faint anticipation for the mysterious killer to appear before him. Tang Ba, this name, he was the fifth to bear it. In other words, almost all the madmen who challenged him, none of them succeeded. They were all subdued by him. While flying, Tang Ba's gaze suddenly froze. He looked up at the sky, and the space above him turned increasingly black. In an instant, Tang Ba was enveloped in a black curtain. His heart stirred, and he wanted to increase his flying speed. Suddenly, his pupils contracted. A white-haired man appeared silently before him. Tang Ba's heart trembled. To be clear, his divine sense had been spreading out without retracting, yet he hadn't detected this person. This was enough to prove that the opponent's divine sense was far superior to his own, by tens of thousands of miles. But powerful divine sense didn't necessarily mean extraordinary ability. Tang Ba almost, without hesitation, patted his storage bag, and a series of black flying swords flew out, blocking his path. The number increased rapidly, as if his storage bag were a bottomless pit. Aside from the barrage of flying swords, he made no move against the newly appeared white-haired young man, but the man's gaze filled Tang Ba with intense disgust. Wang Lin stared intently at his prey, his eyes growing brighter and brighter. This man's killing intent was even more intense than that of his previous prey. It was simply that he had learned the art of concealment, so he was still visible. A satisfied smile appeared on his lips, and Wang Lin's body slowly flew forward. Tang Ba snorted softly, his eyes radiating sharp coldness, his right hand forming a hand seal, pointing towards Wang Lin. Immediately, the entire chain of flying swords surrounding his body emitted a sword hum one, all rushing towards the opponent with a roar. One sword hum is the buzzing sound when the sword vibrates. Wang Lin's eyes showed no fear, only a mocking expression. In the instant the flying swords rushed towards him, his body flashed, his soul-devouring consciousness left his body, transforming into a huge black mist that forcefully intercepted the chain of flying swords. The swords, upon touching the black mist, immediately extinguished their radiance and clattered to the ground. Tang Ba's eyes now showed fear, and he was about to turn around and retreat. But it was too late. Wang Lin's soul-devouring consciousness rushed forward and swallowed him whole, the black mist almost instantly enveloping his entire body. A heart-wrenching scream rang out, a sound so mournful it could make anyone's face turn pale. Following Tang Ba's agonizing scream, his body involuntarily convulsed, his face turning black. This blackness was due to the fact that his body was filled not only with red blood but also with Wang Lin's soul-devouring black mist. Soon after, Tang Ba let out a heart-wrenching scream that echoed to the heavens, lasting for a long time until his throat was hoarse and his entire body was drenched in cold sweat. A moment later, his body trembled violently, then, like a leaf falling from a branch, he drifted down from the air. Before he even hit the ground, the soul-devouring entity that Wang Lin had created, along with his nascent soul and spirit, emerged from Tang Ba's body. The soul-devouring entity returned to his body. The defeated nascent soul was devoured, his spirit was captured and absorbed into the soul banner, and his body was pierced by the dragon's scales. All the lengthy events above, from Wang Lin's appearance to the end, were mostly just the pathetic cries of Tang Ba. His soul returned to his body, but Wang Lin didn't stop. His body flashed, and he flew towards his next target, Tang Lu. He was no longer young. It could be said that about 200 years ago, he was a core disciple. But during a challenge, someone had seized his throne. However, he was fortunate enough to survive. After years of seclusion, without needing Tang Hui Yuan's approval, and without waiting for the 50-yearly challenge Grand Assembly, he quietly sought out the former owner of the name Tang Lu, who was in seclusion in a secret chamber, ruthlessly killed him, and reclaimed the title of Tang Lu. Although he was severely punished by Tang Hui Yuan afterward, the name Tang Lu remained in his hands, never changing hands. Although his cultivation level was only at the nascent soul stage, the magic he practiced had the ability to transform killing intent. That's why Tang Hui Yuan didn't overreact back then, allowing him to retain the name Tang Lu. However, today would be the last day the name Tang Lu would exist. From now on, there would be no other Tang Lu in the world. Tang Wu licked his lips and flew swiftly, his thoughts completely opposite to Tang Ba's. He left his secret chamber because he sensed intense danger. Concealing his killing intent was something Tang Lu had always done. He was blessed with this ability, a talent that had saved his life many times. Therefore, he was extremely confident in this feeling and, without hesitation, quickly left the secret chamber and flew towards Tang Family City. But he didn't think the journey would be smooth and uneventful. Although he was only less than 5 days' journey from the Tang family's residence, his premonition of danger grew stronger with each passing day. Wang Lin's consciousness was focused entirely on one person. This person, also at the mid-stage of the nascent soul realm, licked his lips, stretched his body, and flew rapidly towards him, gradually closing the distance. Deng Liu, who was flying, suddenly felt a surge of killing intent. He inwardly groaned in distress. If it weren't for that premonition of danger, he could have stopped and fought, but at this moment, he could only grit his teeth, his hands forming a hand seal, simultaneously placing them on his chest. Immediately, two loud bang-bang sounds exploded beneath his feet, blood and flesh flying through the air like a rain shower, enveloping his entire body. Enduring the pain, his speed instantly increased several times, his entire body transforming into a blood-red shooting star and disappearing in an instant. Wang Lin raised his eyebrows. This person was extremely decisive, unexpectedly using a secret technique, sacrificing his soul to gain several times the speed. But Wang Lin did not increase his speed. He stood there, coldly watching the other man flee like a cat toying with a mouse, silently contemplating for a moment. From his storage bag, he took out the forbidden spanner, unleashed a beam of spiritual light, and the forbidden spanner immediately opened, covering an area of 1,000 miles. Immediately afterward, Wang Lin frowned slightly. The demon Suli Guo, the third demon, slowly flew out. Wang Lin signaled his protectors to guard him. Then he summoned the ancient bronze mirror, raised it above his head, and slowly swept it around. After that, Wang Lin took a deep breath, crossed his legs, closed his eyes, and immediately a thick black mist surged from his body. The black mist grew larger and larger, finally forming a dark cloud. Suddenly, the cloud flickered, wildly dispersing in all directions, enveloping the entire Zhao kingdom. This black cloud was Wang Lin's soul-devouring entity. This time, his soul had completely separated from his body. Deng Wu, a rather handsome middle-aged man, was worth mentioning. This person was about 8 parts similar to Tang Li back then, and accompanying him were 2 female cultivators. Both were beautiful and charming, following closely behind Tang Wu. The 3 of them flew rapidly towards Tang Family City. Tang Family City was now less than 1,000 miles away, and Tang Wu breathed a sigh of relief. Just then, the sky suddenly darkened, and a thick black mist rushed towards them. Tang Wu was still wide-eyed and open-mouthed when the black mist descended with unimaginable speed, instantly enveloping him. Almost in an instant, it carried Tang Wu's nascent soul and soul out of his body. A thunderous roar came from the direction of Tang Family City, and at the same time, Tang Ichui Yuan's entire body shot forward like a bolt of lightning. He had just sensed Tang Wu's breath, but it quickly vanished, and at the same time, something oppressive made his heart tremble. When Tang Ichui Yuan arrived, the black mist in the sky quickly gathered, and then gradually a figure appeared, Wang Lin. He coldly glanced at Tang Ichui Yuan, a cruel smile briefly appearing on his lips before vanishing. His cultivation wasn't high, only near the early nascent soul stage. But to qualify as a core member of the clan, he didn't need 20 years. At this moment, he was rapidly flying on his flying sword. His heart was filled with immense grief and indignation. In recent days, clan members had died one after another, including his younger brother. This was the reason he left his seclusion. In fact, he wasn't returning to Tang Family City but was seeking revenge for his brother. Unfortunately, he couldn't avenge this hatred, because at this moment, without him noticing, a dark cloud was growing thicker in the sky. After a day, 5 of the 7 core disciples of the Tang family were dead, leaving only 2. One remained at the border, never leaving the secret chamber, while the other was now flying rapidly. However, he wasn't flying alone. A man and a woman were beside him. If Wang Lin saw them, he would surely recognize one of them. It was Wang Juo from back then. Wang Juo no longer had the gloomy expression of the past. Instead, he seemed delighted. These past few days had been the happiest he'd had in 400 years. because the Tang family was being annihilated. Although he didn't know who was responsible, it didn't affect his joyful mood. In fact, he even hoped that this mysterious person would continue killing until the entire Tang family was wiped out. Looking at his wife beside him, Wang Juo felt a little conflicted. In truth, he didn't have even a shred of love for her. If it weren't for his fear of Tang Hui Yuan's power back then, he wouldn't have taken her in to protect himself. But people aren't like plants or trees. They've lived together for hundreds of years. Although his hatred for the Tang family hadn't changed, he couldn't bring himself to harm his wife. At first glance, Tang Sen didn't seem young anymore. His temples were graying, suggesting he was around 50 years old. Upon closer inspection, one could see a resemblance between him and Wang Juo's wife. He was exceptionally handsome, his refined face flawless, and his deep, dark eyes shone like precious gems. Tudu, our Tang family is facing a formidable enemy, yet our ancestor remains silent. This is very strange. If we return safely to Tang family city this time, you and your sister won't need to go out again, Tang Sen said softly. Tang Tutu was Tang San's daughter. In fact, Tang Sen had ended his secluded cultivation and emerged from his secret chamber to bring Tang Tutu back to Tang family city. She nodded slightly. If this time father cannot escape this unfortunate fate and loses his life, then I don't need to go looking for my sister anymore. Leave Zhao Kingdom immediately. Go as far as you can. Go very far. After a moment of hesitation, Tang Sen sternly instructed his daughter. Wang Juo, flying beside them, heard these words. Although his face remained calm, he inwardly sneered. Tang San's gaze seemed to penetrate people's hearts. He swept a cold glance at his son-in-law, his face expressionless, making it impossible to discern his true feelings. Gently stroking his daughter's hair, a wave of love surged through the father's heart. Years ago, the patriarch insisted on separating him and his wife. He knew that from now on, in this life, though he lived, he would only be a ghost beside the patriarch. All because his wife was a mortal woman, while he was the legitimate son of the Tang clan, the grandson most beloved by the patriarch, and absolutely could not marry a mortal. Because the descendants of the Tang family absolutely needed to possess the qualities of a cultivator. If they wanted to change things, they needed powerful authority. They had to surpass the cultivation level of their ancestors. Many years later, he achieved enlightenment. Although his two daughters, with his help, also entered the cultivation world, his wife had long since passed away. He was overwhelmed with grief and pain, a pain so intense it felt like his heart was being torn apart, and it has never subsided. For countless years, he has been strict with himself, wholeheartedly devoting himself to cultivation. Only by pursuing cultivation could he temporarily forget the pain of losing his wife. To some extent, Tang Zhushu's appearance was very similar to her mother's. With her, he poured all the love he had for his deceased wife into a fatherly affection. She was not only his daughter, but also helped him alleviate the pain of missing his wife. Therefore, in this life, he would never allow anyone to harm Tang Zhuzhu, and would never let her suffer even the slightest injustice. Coldly sweeping his gaze over his son-in-law, Tang Sen said indifferently, Wang Juo, out of respect for your relationship with Tu, I won't kill you. Leave. From now on, you and Tang Tu have no connection whatsoever. Wang Juo's eyes flashed, staring intently at Tang San, and he sneered, truly insane. With that, he stepped back and immediately left. Hearing these words, Tang Tu's expression changed. She hurriedly stepped forward, grabbed Wang Juo's hand, turned around, and looked at her father with teary eyes, biting her lower lip in silence. Although her father's gaze remained icy, he sighed inwardly and slowly turned away. Tu's eyes were identical to those of his deceased wife from years ago. He couldn't kill his son-in-law in front of his daughter. He didn't want his daughter to suffer for the rest of her life. Wang Juo, although the Tang family wronged your entire clan back then, I still hope you won't hurt Zhu. You too. After all, are a couple cultivating together. Your parents may not be able to be by your side for life, but your wife is the only one who can accompany you for the rest of your life. Wang Juo, take care of yourself. Wang Juo remained silent, glancing at Tang Zhuzhu, his heart filled with complex emotions. In truth, even now he didn't know what he should choose if such a day truly came. Tang Zhuzhu, with tears in her eyes, looked at the two most important men in her life and softly said, Father, Wang Juo won't. He won't. Her last words were filled with unwavering faith in her husband. The poor woman, even at this moment, stubbornly believed that Wang Zhuo would never hurt her. Although Tang San's expression remained calm, the murderous intent in his heart did not diminish. On the contrary, it intensified. If it were before, when the Tang family was still flourishing, whether Wang Zhuo lived or died would have been meaningless to him. Tang San was absolutely certain that this cowardly brat wouldn't act rashly. But now, the Tang family was facing turmoil, a situation completely different from before. Tang San had decided that once he returned to Tang Family City, he would find an opportunity to kill Wang Zhuo. He still had a feeling that if Wang Zhuo didn't die, Tang Shuxiu would be in danger. However, he couldn't have that opportunity. A dark cloud suddenly appeared from the horizon, almost instantly enveloping everything, seemingly ready to fall at any moment. Tang San's eyes narrowed, and almost without hesitation, he flicked his right index finger, spitting out a mouthful of nascent soul essence blood. At the same time, a bright light shot out from the storage bag, merging with the essence blood, instantly transforming into a circular halo that appeared before him. With a flick of his hand, Tang Shuxiu cried out in alarm, her body involuntarily thrown into the light. She looked at Wang Zhuo, her voice filled with despair as she pleaded, "Father." Hearing his daughter's voice, Tang San couldn't bear it any longer. He sighed inwardly, then flicked his hand again, throwing Wang Zhuo into the light as well. Wang Zhuo and Shuxiu vanished. Everything happened incredibly fast, almost instantly as the black mist enveloped them. Tang San, without hesitation, sacrificed his own cultivation, using a large amount of nascent soul essence blood to teleport Tang Shuxiu and her husband away. Having done that, he felt no regret. He stood tall, looking up at the sky, and a shimmering orange flying sword appeared beside him. He had forged this sword himself, named Tao Yun, after his wife, whose name contained the character Yun. He never used his spiritual power to clean this sword every day. No one except him was allowed to touch it, not even Tang Hui Yuan. He didn't even use it when fighting others. He cherished the hilt of the flying sword immensely, seemingly no less than TUTU. When he was forging this sword, his wife had left a drop of her blood inside. This drop of mortal blood significantly reduced the sword's power, but Tang San didn't care. In his eyes, as long as the sword remained, he remained. If the sword was lost, he was lost. At this moment, Tang San's fighting spirit surged intensely. He knew he would surely die today. If he had to choose how to die, he hoped to die with this sword. Gently stroking the flying sword, this was the last time in his life he would use his spiritual power to clean it. Then, Tang San's eyes suddenly flashed with determination. Without a word, he struck the sword, and with a whoosh, the flying sword sped towards the black mist. Tang San leapt up, following closely behind the flying sword, pushing his entire body's spiritual power to its limit. Both he and the flying sword merged into a dazzling shooting star, hurtling towards the mist. Inside the shooting star, Tang San vaguely saw his wife standing before him, smiling and waving. The shooting star tore through the sky, piercing the black mist and stopping 100 miles away. The black mist stirred, condensing into an ethereal figure. The figure gradually became clear. It was Wang Lin. He gazed thoughtfully at the now disoriented shooting star. Just moments before, the middle-aged man had fearlessly charged straight at him, rushing into death. But in that very moment of his demise, Wang Lin felt a pang of sorrowful longing. After a moment of silence, he decided not to take this person's soul, even though cultivating it would produce a top-tier demon. He never expected that even within the Tang family, there would be someone so loyal and righteous. However, this person had to die, because he bore the Tang surname. 100 miles away, a meteor fell to the ground. Tang San's body was unharmed, his eyes wide open, his breathing stopped, and life was extinguished. In his hand, the cloud-dancing flying sword flashed one last time before breaking into pieces Tang Family City. Tang Hui Yuan was on the top floor of the ancestral building, staring in astonishment at a series of jade slips. There were 9 jade slips in total, 5 of which were shattered. Just as he was intently watching, Tang San's jade slip made a soft crack sound and broke in two. Tang Hui Yuan's whole body trembled, suddenly feeling much older. He shakily reached out and touched each shattered jade slip, finally stopping at the one for Tang San. Two rare tears, the kind he hadn't shed in 400 years, streamed down his eyes. Higher, Tang Hui Yuan whispered. Deng Hai, Tang San's real name. 9 core members of the Deng family, when a successor was chosen, would leave a wisp of their soul in a specially crafted jade slip at the ancestral hall. In just 2 short days, each jade slip had shattered, and each time, Deng Hua Yuan's heart ached. Especially Deng Hua Yuan had almost witnessed his death. Just 10 yards away, the feeling of being so close, yet in an instant separated by life and death, even the heart of the ancestor Deng Hua Yuan, as hard as stone, couldn't help but ache. Deng Wu, in terms of appearance, resembled the deceased Deng Li the most, except for Deng Yi. Because of this, he received considerable affection from Deng Hua Yuan. Teng Ju's bitter childhood had shaped his distorted personality. Because of this, he had fallen into an extreme path of cultivation, resorting to any means necessary, even to the point of exhausting his own life. Deng Hua Yuan had prepared top-grade elixirs for him, but now they were useless. Teng Ba, Teng Liu, and Teng Si also held positions in his heart, but Teng Sen was the one who weighed most heavily on him. Teng San. There was a time when Deng Hua Yuan considered him a disgrace to the entire Teng family. As a core disciple, he had neglected his cultivation, obsessively infatuated with a mortal woman. Therefore, he forced the lovers apart, allowing the years to relentlessly take her life. Deng Hua Yuan knew that Teng Sen hated him, but this did not diminish his affection for him. In fact, he even vaguely regretted his actions. However, this little bit of regret is meaningless now, because Teng Sen is dead. Wang Lin's soul, after killing 6 core members of the Teng family, flew back to his body at the fastest speed. Upon returning, Wang Lin slowly opened his eyes, remaining silent for a moment. In the instant he killed the middle-aged man, he had seen a figure that shocked him. If he wasn't mistaken, this person was Wang Ju. The woman beside Wang Ju was the woman's daughter. She was with him, clearly indicating a certain relationship between them. Wang Lin's eyes flashed. He retracted the forbidden spanner, the ancient mirror, and the demonic head. With a slight push of his feet, he soared to the top of the beast's head, his divine consciousness spreading throughout the space, instantly locating Wang Ju and the woman. The direction she was heading wasn't towards Teng Family City, but towards the border of a neighboring country. After a moment of contemplation, Wang Lin decided to follow. Teng Zixu's eyes were filled with sorrow. Although she was running for her life, tears streamed down her face. She didn't know her father's condition, but she had a bad premonition. She buried this feeling deep in her heart, and it weighed heavily on her chest, making it difficult to breathe. Wang Ju's heart grew even more complicated. Seeing the Teng family members being killed one by one, although he felt a great sense of relief, that feeling of relief was gone for some reason. Instead, a heavy burden of worrying filled his mind. Wang Ju's whole body trembled. He stopped and closed his eyes. The horrific scene of the entire family being brutally murdered by Deng Hua Yuan years ago flashed vividly before his eyes, filling his mind. Seeing her husband stop, Deng Shuxiu also quickly stopped, biting her lower lip, looking at Wang Ju. At this moment, she could only rely on him alone, only this man, her husband. After a moment, Wang Ju opened his eyes and fiercely slapped himself several times. He wanted to snap himself out of it, but the voice that had reminded him for 400 years echoed once again. The Teng family is the enemy, including Deng Shuxiu. He had never felt even a shred of affection for her. As long as they were from the Teng family, they deserved to die. Deng Shuxiu anxiously stepped forward in front of Wang Ju, tears streaming down her face. Wang Ju struggled to steel himself. Deng Shuxiu's eyes were filled with despair and astonishment as she looked at Wang Ju, unaware that she had bitten her lower lip until it bled. At this moment, she was just an ordinary woman, stepping forward to grab her husband's hand. But Wang Ju dodged her again, his voice still icy. "You won't go, I will." With that, he turned and, without a second thought, slowly flew away, in the opposite direction. Deng Shuxiu stared blankly at her husband's retreating figure in the empty air, her despair intensifying. Her heart felt as if it were being torn apart by 1,000 knives, the pain immeasurable. Her face flushed red, and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Her body trembled and staggered, her face pale as she struggled to stand. In truth, the moment Wang Ju turned, his heart had already been torn apart, but the scene of his entire clan's tragic death flashed before his eyes, leaving him with no choice. At this moment, Shuxiu's heart ached immeasurably, and his heart ached just as much. Deng Tiu smiled tragically, looking at her husband and softly saying, "Don't go." Wang Juo's whole body trembled. His hands clenched tightly, and he forcefully turned around, shouting at his wife, "Get out!" With that, his body flashed and he quickly flew away, disappearing in an instant. Blood trickled from the corner of Tiu2's mouth. She gazed deeply in the direction Wang Juo had disappeared, then turned away with a bitter smile, her eyes hazy. The world was vast, but she didn't know where to go. The two most important men in her life, one dead or alive, the other abandoned her. For this poor woman, everything had collapsed. She had nothing left. Wang Juo closed his eyes and flew for more than 10 miles without daring to look back. His fists clenched so tightly that veins bulged and blood flowed. The deaths of each member of his clan flashed vividly before his eyes as if it had happened yesterday, then faded, replaced by the lonely, pitiful figure and desperate eyes of Tang Xiuxiu. After a long while, Wang Juo fell to the ground, kneeling before the small town where his clan used to live, bowing until his head bled, bitterly saying, "Father, mother, I am unfilial." Having said that, his heart ached. He closed his eyes, tears streaming down his cheeks, and silently stood up, turning towards his wife. In that instant, as he turned, he seemed to see his entire clan, especially his father and mother, heartbroken, looking at him, pointing at his face, and scolding him as a traitor, a disobedient son of the Wang family. Wang Juo's heart was torn into two pieces. A fierce struggle, and overwhelmed with grief, he chased after Tang Xiuxiu. In a flash, he saw her faint, ethereal figure weakly flying away. As if guided by instinct, she turned back, staring at her husband in astonishment, her eyes filled with love. However, the moment the two saw each other, a wave of killing intent surged from the horizon. A huge beast appeared, with a young man with flowing white hair perched on its head, coldly staring at them as it slowly advanced. Behind him lay a mountain of corpses from the Tang family, the stench of blood overwhelming them as he approached. Tang Xiuxiu's face turned pale. Instinctively, she hid behind Wang Juo, her delicate body trembling. Wang Juo stared at the white-haired man in disbelief. You are Wang Lin, Wang Juo." Wang Lin leapt down from the beast, standing before Wang Juo, glancing at the woman behind him. Instinctively, he tried to shield his wife, his gaze incredibly complex. After a long pause, he lowered his voice. "I had already guessed it. Only you have the strength to avenge the Wang family." Wang Lin was silent for a moment, then softly said, "Wang Juo." "I'm sorry." Wang Juo smiled bitterly and shook his head. "If you had said those words to me back then, I wouldn't have forgiven you. But now our enemy is only one, Tang Ichue Yuan." Wang Lin's eyes flashed with icy fire as he slowly uttered each word. "Tang Ichue Yuan. He can't escape. No one in the entire Tang family can escape either." Tang Xiuxiu's body trembled violently. Although terrified, she managed to suppress her fear, gritting her teeth and softly asking, My father." "My father?" "Shut up." Wang Juo raised his eyebrows, interrupting Xiuxiu, and tried to calmly tell Wang Lin, "She is your sister-in-law." Before Wang Juo could finish, Wang Lin calmly interrupted, "Your father shouldn't bear the Tang surname." Xiuxiu's body trembled even more violently, her eyes filled with deep hatred as she looked at Wang Lin. Hearing Wang Lin's words, Wang Juo understood that he knew Xiuxiu's true identity, and his heart became even more troubled. Wang Lin pondered, looking at the setting sun in the distance, slowly saying, "Wang Hao, is he still at the Zhuan Dao sect?" Wang Juo shook his head bitterly. He didn't successfully form his core. He's dead." Wang Lin closed his eyes and sighed softly, saying in a low voice, "You and she should leave Zhao Kingdom." Without even glancing at Wang Juo, he turned and leapt onto the beast's back. His words and actions clearly showed his decision. He would not kill Tang Xiuxiu. Wang Juo watched Wang Lin's retreating figure, his gaze becoming increasingly complex. The tragic deaths of his parents and clan members flashed before his eyes, still haunting him, seemingly watching him every moment, cursing him as a traitor. Wang Juo gave a bitter smile, turned to look at his wife, and suddenly his heart sank. Looking into her eyes, he saw deep, hidden hatred. Silently, Wang Juo's eyes filled with love. He gently said, "Xiuxiu, let's go." With those words, his right hand gently stroked his wife's long hair. Deng Xiuxiu was stunned, tears streaming down her face. They had lived together for so many years, and this was the first time he had called her Xiuxiu. Before her smile could even fade, Wang Juo's right hand rested on her head. using his spiritual power to instantly end her life. Deng Shuxiu did not die a tragic death. She died in the arms of the man she loved, embracing the corpse of his deceased wife. Wang Zhuo's eyes were filled with sorrow and anguish. He watched Wang Lin disappear, muttering to himself, "Wang Lin, I will not become a traitor to the Wang family, nor will I be a descendant of the Deng family, not even a little bit." With those words, he knelt before his hometown, bowing his head several times forcefully. He struck his own forehead with his palm, ending his own life. A stream of red blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He gazed lovingly at his wife, embracing her as he fell. "Tu, don't be afraid. I'll go with you." Wang Lin, standing on the beast, suddenly trembled. His divine sense clearly detected that Wang Zhuo's light point had disappeared. After a moment's thought, his whole body flashed, and he vanished from the beast. He reappeared beside the corpses of Wang Zhuo and his wife, gazing at them in astonishment, his heart filled with countless complex thoughts and feelings. He understood Wang Zhuo's choice. Wang Zhuo must have suffered for a long time, struggling between his family and his lover. In the end, he could only kill her himself to atone for his sins against his family. Moreover, after she died, he could only die to be with the one he loved, to have a complete ending. Wang Lin silently touched Wang Zhuo's forehead, and a thin wisp of soul fire, which could dissipate at any moment, flew out and was caught in his hand. Sighing, he disappeared. In the northeastern capital of the Zhao Kingdom, there stood a magnificent building, the renowned Wang family residence. A white-haired young man, his body seemingly translucent, leisurely walked into the courtyard, unnoticed by any of the servants. He entered a pavilion within the villa, where a woman lay on a bed, her belly slightly protruding, clearly pregnant. The young man gazed at her for a moment, a thin, white light silently appearing in his hand. He sighed softly, and with a wave of his right hand, the white light pierced through the pavilion and entered the woman's womb. Inside, her soul and the soul of the developing child gradually merged. Once born, you must enter the cultivation world. "Perhaps one day in the future, we will meet again," the white-haired young man murmured to himself, then turned and departed.